Hello everyone, a very good afternoon to you and welcome to the sunshine in Germany for our 32nd plus one lap race for Ferrari Challenge Copa Shell Am, about to take to the track. And as you can see, some 16, 17 cars down there ready to do battle at Hockenheim. That's where we are. Yes, this 4.574 kilometer circuit here in Germany plays host to the third round of the Ferrari Challenge Europe. So let's take a look at what we can look forward to in terms of the weather this afternoon. It's going to stay dry. It's the third round of the Ferrari Challenge for 2025. We've been to Monza and Misano. Here we are in Germany. From here, we head off to the Czech Republic and Brno. Then it's Valencia, Barcelona, Spa-Francorchamps. And then the finale mondiale, which is round 8 this year, is in Mugello. So I promised you we'd take a look at the weather conditions. And at the moment, it is glorious weather here in Germany. 39 degrees the track temperature. The air temperature is a very pleasant 18. There's about 11 kilometers per hour of wind at the moment, just adding to the weather conditions that we have. It's super weekend to be racing. Weather conditions potentially altogether different for tomorrow, but of that we'll come to a little bit later on during the course of our program. So thrilled that you're here, and thrilled also that we can look at the car of Boris Gideon, local driver, very keen on the media attention for Autohaus Ulrich. Going from P2 on the grid is Boris Gideon. Sven Schirmer going from P3. Andreas Koenig will be going from P4. And Andreas Koenig actually set the fastest lap earlier on, but thought he was going to be in pole position, but for various reasons that I'll get to in just a while, is not starting from that P1 place, because this man is Jan Sandman. His driver coach is Charlie Hollings, and you can see Charlie there to the right-hand side of your picture, offering final instructions to Jan Sandman for Kessel Racing ahead of the start of the race. Let's listen. You could hear a little bit of what Charlie was saying, but not too much. And forgive us for eavesdropping into that conversation, but it's always nice to hear. To your right-hand side of your picture is Andreas Koenig, who we expected to be on pole position. To his left is Sven Schirmer. And we walk further down through the grid, where Shintaro Akatsu to the left-hand side, and it's Charles Chan to the right-hand side. Of course, we will bring you the grid in full a little bit later on in our program. And good to see so many people here to enjoy the race action at Hockenheim. Where were we last? We were in Misano. Well, as you could see there, the weather conditions in Misano were changeable. It was Sven Schirmer that took the victory in race 1, and it was Andreas Koenig that took the victory in race 2 when we were down there on the Adriatic coast. Here we are on the coast of, well, we're not really, are we? Because we're in Germany, and allow me to introduce my colleague Nico Spalak here. We are in the Baden-Württemberg area of Germany, is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Good afternoon, everybody. We're close to the coast of the River Rhine. If there is any coast nearby, that's the only one we have on offer. But we have some great sunshine. We have Ferrari Challenge Racing. So the lack of coast won't trouble us too much, I hope.
I think you're right. Now, earlier on, I was mentioning that Sven Schirmer took one victory at Misano. I was chatting to him over lunch, and he's hoping to do... He's not qualified quite where we would expect him to be. We kind of thought he would be at least on the front row. He's on the second row of the grid. But Sven is confident that he's going to be able to do something from there. So we will see what he is able to do. He drives for the Penske Sportwagen Hamburg team. As I mentioned, good number of people here to enjoy the Ferrari Challenge racing. Jan Sandman for Kessel going from P1. Boris Gideon for Autohaus Ulrich going from P2. And then it is Sven Schirmer and Andreas Koenig. And there you can see the 133 car that's driven by Charles Chan. It's one of Charles' best qualifying. He's going from P6 on the grid for Formula Racing. Well done, Charles. A good qualifying, that's for sure. From our commentary studio, which is right on the start-finish straight, we can see that the people down there on the grid are beginning to be cleared, as you could see there as well, before we get the sequence of everything underway for the start of the 30-minute race plus one lap, as we were on board then with our pole sitter momentarily. So let's find out a little bit more about the Hockenheim circuit then. 4.574 kilometers in length.
It's always the same. I brake here, I turn the car, and I cannot find the grip when I oversteer a lot on the outside of the car.
Okay, we can go now into the track for look the problem here and here. Now, I'll tell you a secret. A lot of pilots put the attention in the fast corner, like corner 7 or corner 11. But here in corner 6, you can lose 5 steps. So remember always to brake hard at the beginning and start to decrease when you arrive around 100 meters.
We also need to work on the grip when we go out.
Yes, but you need to wait. You need to stay here close to the curb. Wait, wait. When you are after the curb, close and open the gas.
We need to find the grip here. When I open the gas, I don't have the grip.
When you can open the steering is the moment to improve the gas. And at the end of the straight, you can find 5 kilometers, you can be faster. Questions?
No. Next corner.
Let's go. So we try to prepare on the maximum left. And you need to wait a bit until to turn. When you want to open the gas, you need to have a preview. So start to open a bit the steering and you can start to open the gas. The problem you have is in the exit, not in the entrance. Remember always to touch the curb. You need to arrive with the wheels here.
You know, the question is turning before the end of the green or at the end of the green?
Okay, after.
To have the most.
Yes, we need to wait the end and move the car in. Remember to come flat, and when you are close to the curb, 20% off. Not much, 20 just off, and immediately on. Questions?
All good?
Sven and his driver coach there. What was really interesting is braking at the Parabolica at the 100 marker. I always thought you'd be braking at 150. So here is the track then. As I mentioned, it's 4.574 kilometers. Depending on how you count the turns, there's either 16 or 17. I prefer 16. 6 left, 10 right-handers. I love Hockenheim. It provides great opportunities for overtaking, and it is such a varied track. You've got long, fast, sweeping parts, and you've got technical parts too. So the cars have been released on their formation lap standby. We will be bringing you the grid in full from back to front as to the runners and riders of this Ferrari Challenge Copa Shell Am race. We ride on board with our pole sitter then, who's got 17, 16 cars champing at the bit behind him. Is he going to be able to hold on to that P1 position? Only time will tell. We ride on board with the safety car and the race one starting grid, Louis Perusquia, and then it is Matthias Moser, returning Matthias Moser and Alvaro Ramos. Then Alberto Duran and Alwar Mayer go 14 and 13. Lisa Clark, P12. She was racing in Miami just last weekend. Paolo Scudieri, P11. Alexei Komarov going from P10. Good quali from Pino Frascaro. He goes from P9. Another good quali from Hassan Debussy, P8. And a returning Stephen Earle goes from P7. Then it's Charles Chan and Shintaro Akatsu ahead of Andreas Koenig and Sven Schirmer. And then Boris Gideon goes from P2 and Jan Salmon is going from P1 on the grid. And now there's been a change to the pole position because Andreas Koenig on track gave us the quickest time, and we thought he was going to be on pole position. I'll tell you why he isn't in a mo.
So yeah, the quality was quite interesting. The team said I need to do a 2-tire strategy, so I started with one set of tire to warm up, which really helped me get the brakes hot, and then the second set of tires it was just flying, and I'm super happy. Thanks to Alessandro, thanks to Giacomo, thanks to the whole team. They did a wonderful job, and I hope I can stay in this position for the race.
Well, that was recorded just a few minutes before the penalty was announced that Andreas Koenig would take a 3-place grid drop for impeding the man that is on pole position, which is Jan Salmon. So that's the reason that we saw Andreas Koenig as a pole sitter when in fact he's starting from P4 on the grid. So the safety car will peel off into the pit lane, and then it will be the responsibility of Jan Salmon and Boris Gideon to control the pace of the rolling start for this Ferrari Challenge Copa Shell Am race. As I mentioned, 30 minutes plus 1 lap. And boy, it's going to be a good race. There's Louis Perusquia then. Safety car has peeled off. Stand by, hold on to your hats. We throw the lighting gantry to the top of the screen so you can see exactly as the drivers do. When the lights go out, we will be racing. Well, as they go into turn number 1, trying to go all the way around the outside here, Boris Gideon, but it is a long way around there. Andreas Koenig moving up into that P3 position ahead of Sven Schirmer right at the start of the race. And now he will harry Boris Gideon, who in turn is harrying Jan Salmon. So Charles Chan trying to come around the outside of Shintaro Akatsu for that P5 place also, and Hassan Debussy looking good. So onto the Parabolica for the first time of asking. Jan Salmon has got away pretty nicely. Big dropper in terms of the start was Lisa Clark being called out, but Jan Salmon, Boris Gideon, Andreas Koenig are the 1, 2, 3, where for the first time of asking, they're into the hairpin right now. You can take different lines through the hairpin. Shintaro Akatsu gets a touch, and he was touched there, and that was Alexei Komarov, I think, making contact with Shintaro Akatsu. It's always a pinch point, the hairpin here at Hockenheim, and that, sure enough, paying the price then for the very, very unlucky Shintaro Akatsu. So Andreas Koenig then continuing to chase down Boris Gideon, but a great start from Jan Salmon, who's just focusing on everything he's got to do and getting himself up the road and building a margin. And Sven Schirmer is staying. It's a 3-way fight for P2 at the moment into the stadium section of this circuit. Banked corner, that one. You can use that banking to your effect as well. And you can see how Andreas Koenig, who potentially has got the bit between his teeth because of the penalty that was awarded to him for impeding the very man that is leading this race, Andreas will be wanting to try and get past Boris Gideon and then take the fight to Jan Salmon. But as they cross the timing line, Jan had built a margin of a second between himself and Boris Gideon. And then it's Andreas Koenig, Sven Schirmer, Charles Chan, Hassan Debussy P6, then Alexei Komarov ahead of Shintaro Akatsu. Those two, of course, having a bit of a moment. Different lines altogether between Boris Gideon and Andreas Koenig. Now, keep your eyes on Andreas Koenig here. Tries to get the draft off the back of the Boris Gideon car as they head up through the Parabolica to the hairpin. You can either choose to go in tight and deep here or all the way around the outside. But here you can see, trying to get a switch back, is Andreas Koenig on Boris Gideon. But he wasn't quite close enough. Now, making not the best exit from that turn was Jan Salmon on that occasion, and his margin has dropped now. Car number 199 is under investigation. You'll recall I mentioned that was Alexei Komarov who just caught the car of Shintaro Akatsu. Andreas Koenig is looking the liveliest here now from that P3 position. He is certainly chasing down Boris Gideon, Nico.
Absolutely, and obviously Andreas Koenig was the quickest in qualifying, just on pace, so you would expect him to have a good pace, and he is proving that in the early stages. First track limit violations being recorded, a total of 5 over the first 3 minutes or so, so that's something we will undoubtedly come back to. But for the moment, this is the sequence. We've got Jan Salmon, Boris Gideon and Andreas Koenig, but Sven Schirmer is not out of this.
No, and the problem is, for someone like Andreas Koenig, who's running in P3, he wants to attack the car ahead of him, but cannot do that because he's got to think about Sven Schirmer as well, who's right behind him. So here was the start then, and for my money, the car's a little bit out of sequence there. Whether Andreas Koenig was just a little bit further back than maybe he should have been, who knows? But I thought Boris Gideon was going to have a tough ass to go all the way around the outside of Jan Salmon, and sure enough, he did. You can see now, a lot of cars running wide through turn 1 at the start. Now, that is allowed at the start of the race, but from there on in, it is not. Now, drive-through penalty has been awarded to car number 199. That is Alexei Komarov, who picks up a drive-through penalty for causing a collision in turn 6. And riding on board with Jan Salmon, you could see what it looked like from being on board. Now, here was the collision between Shintaro Akatsu and Alexei Komarov. Now, to be fair to both drivers, as around went Alvaro Ramos as well. I didn't see that live. To be fair to both of those drivers, now a drive-through penalty has been given to Alexei Komarov. Quite clearly, race control believe that he was responsible for that collision, so that will put Shintaro Akatsu back up one further place. He's got Paolo Scudieri right up his trumpet at the moment, and then Stephen Earle as well. So he won't have to worry too much about trying to overtake the car in front of him. What I was saying a little bit earlier on is that Boris Gideon and Andreas Koenig have both got Sven Schirmer right behind them, and now here's Shintaro Akatsu having to go around the outside of very slow into the pit lane Alexei Komarov. There's Pino Frascaro, who is running P10. It says P11 on the left-hand side of your screen, but bear in mind Alexei Komarov has just come into the pit lane. So there's Koenig, P3. Sven Schirmer, who was right on his gearbox a few moments ago, isn't now. So he can potentially breathe a sigh of relief, but the top 3 have all gapped each other by about a second. And there you can see the damage to the right-hand side of the Alexei Komarov car, where he made contact with Shintaro Akatsu in the hairpin. Turn 6. He accelerates now, doesn't cross the white line. He's back out into the race again, but of course he's right at the back of the pack right now. Meantime, Jan Salmon doing everything really well, sets the fastest lap of the race so far. That banks him an additional point into his tally of points. You get a point for the fastest lap in the race, and the first 6.5 minutes of this race done and dusted. It's Jan Salmon from Boris Gideon and Andreas Koenig, the top 3.
Yeah, and they're running at a little bit of a space. Andreas Koenig obviously the closest, Jan Salmon with a nice cushion of 1.8 seconds. And there you can see what those 1.8 seconds mean in terms of actual distance. No distance really between Andreas Koenig and Boris Gideon in front of him. There's the same battle from the onboard view of Jan Salmon. Great shot, as you can see how the gap stretches out when they accelerate on the home straight.
What's also interesting for me is how Gideon and Koenig have managed to break away from Sven Schirmer, who was right with them just a lap or so ago. That's not the case now. The man that's under pressure here, in my opinion, is Boris Gideon. Now, you can use the parabolica and you can use these turns as an opportunity to overtake going through the hairpin. Andreas Koenig will try and do that right now. He's right in the draft of the Boris Gideon car as they head up towards turn 6, which is the hairpin. Now, you can either choose to dive to the inside or go around the outside, then try and get a switchback. That, for my money, is what Koenig is trying to do here. Boris Gideon gets reasonable momentum out of turn 6, and that probably, for the moment, denies Andreas Koenig. And, of course, that's the second time, for my money, that he's tried that move, and therefore Boris Gideon is aware of it, and he's able to position the car perfectly to deny Andreas Koenig.
Absolutely. I mean, Andreas Koenig potentially will use exactly that strategy and sell him a dummy that he's doing the same thing again, and then do something different. But, you know, sometimes it's just being patient about that, and all he needs, Andreas Koenig, I mean, is maybe Boris Gideon have a little bit of an issue coming out of the corner, because once you lose traction there, that can also be a different. It's not over once you reach the apex of that hairpin.
You are right. So we will see. Andreas will continue to pile the pressure on, and there is no doubt about it. Boris Gideon will continue to try and make the car just a little bit wider than it is. The setup of these cars is very critical at Hockenheim, where you've got both technical sectors and high-speed sectors as well. And the setup is always a compromise, for the track, but also to suit any individual driver's particular driving style. There's Paolo Scudieri running P8. Stephen Earle is running P9 at the moment. So, Paolo Scudieri then running in P8. Shintaro Akatsu is the car ahead of them, and Hassan Debussy doing a really good job running in P6 as well. Hassan Debussy is coached by Daniel Mancinelli, who knows a thing or two about winning races and winning Ferrari Challenge races as well. So it's Sandman from Gideon from Koenig. And here is Paolo Scudieri then, who has made some of the best progress up 3 places, or up 6 places though, Louis Peruscua. Good job being done by Louis. There's Shintaro Akatsu. There is Paolo Scudieri, and right behind Paolo Scudieri, I shook his hand and said, welcome back to Stephen Earle, who was missing for the last round, but here he is back racing again. Great to see.
Yeah, absolutely, and great to see that with 10 minutes elapsed, all the 17 runners are still in the race. So good to see that the early part of this race has gone without major incident, and that means that we can focus on what's happening on the track. 2 seconds to the good of Boris Gideon now is Jan Sandman, and there is exactly that gap, and Andreas Koenig is a little bit seesawing between the number 2 and number 3 positions, and Andreas Koenig is trying to mount pressure without overstressing and overheating his tires running in the dirty air.
And that's the thing, isn't it? You know, you've got to protect what you've got as well, and we can see Max Blancardi, who's one of 2 driver coaches that is involved here, and Max Blancardi then, who looks after Sven Schirmer along with, I mean, Sven Schirmer has the benefit of actually having, Nico, a couple of driver coaches that work with him, which is extraordinary, but sometimes it's how it works. Federico Andrea Gagliardini it is that works. You can see he was one of the 2 driver coaches that works with Max Blancardi. Right, Andreas Koenig ups the game once again and tries to get a little bit closer to Boris Gideon. I think Boris is driving a really good race here because he's able to control everything, Nico, and he is able to ensure that Andreas is having to really push and drive his car a bit harder, and therefore it's potential that Andreas Koenig is taking a little bit more out of his tyres than Boris Gideon. You can see how close he got there under braking, Nico. Yeah. Andreas means business here. He will want to right the wrongs of qualifying, where he got penalised for impeding. Of course, drivers always have different perspectives to race control, inevitably. Which is why we can only talk about what we can see on the screen, thankfully, and have nothing to do with the decision-making process. Boris just looked a little bit wayward there, and again, it's in this part of the circuit where Andreas is able to get really, really close. He's looking at the inside line now. Can he scrub the speed off? Racing room is left by Boris Gideon to be fair, and Andreas Koenig Nico, that is not somewhere that I would have said is an obvious overtake place, but Koenig made it stick. Well done.
Absolutely. You saw it the lap before where he was not on the dirty air. He went on the other side and kept his brakes cool, and this time he left it, and then a very, very late dive, but fair racing room left Boris Gideon. Oh, and now there was a little bit, something came up from the ground. I don't know if he ran over something. Certainly affected his traction for Andreas Koenig, but he held it together.
Well, of course, that was the scene of some an earlier touch between Alexei Komarov and Shintaro Akatsu. So it's just perfectly reasonable to assume that there might be a little debris there, and that perhaps just catching Andreas out for a moment.
Yeah, it looked like it. Anyway, he kept it together and actually manages to stretch his legs over.
Look at this. I mean, that was a very, very last-minute decision, wasn't it? But I want to say fair play to Boris Gideon as well. It would have been very easy for him to turn in and for it to have been pretty catastrophic potentially for both of them. It was a great move. And his team, Andreas Koenig's team of Emil Frey Racing, were very unemotional about that, Nico.
Well, we didn't expect anything else from you, Andreas. Anyway, he is now 3.5 seconds, or he was the last time they crossed the timing line. That's down to 3 seconds. Overall best final second. So it's going to be interesting if Andreas Koenig can take this to Jan Sandman. This would be, over the remaining 60 minutes plus a lap, a very interesting setup.
We're riding on board with the driver that is leading the race, the Kessel driver, that is Jan Sandman. There's his driver coach, Charlie Hollings, on the radio to him, who will be advising him that actually Andreas Koenig is taking big lumps of time out of your lead, friend. I mean, he's just taken another 4/10 out of him.
Yeah, 2 purple sectors in succession. You can see that Andreas Koenig, now released, is really meeting business. And one thing to get on terms, the other thing is getting by.
Absolutely.
But this lead is decreasing.
Lisa Clark taking a look at Louis Peruska there through turn number 1, but wasn't able to do anything about it. So this is the fight that is going on further down the order, but it's compelling as Lisa Clark really trying to take this to Louis Peruska. And right behind Lisa Clark is Alberto Duran. So it's Jan Salmon leading, but wherever you look in this Copa Chelam race, there are battles going on, and battles worth watching as well. Here comes Lisa Clark again around the Parabolica, heading up to the hairpin now. Where does Louis Peruska place the car? Oh, and Lisa Clark gets a touch, and I regret that that's a touch from the Alberto Duran car. So if we saw a bit of debris on that corner, we're seeing even more debris now.
That's an unfortunate one. 5 cars running so close together, there's always the potential. Certainly nothing malicious, but
no.
You know, obviously Duran there just didn't get the car to stop before making contact. Let's look at it again.
I think, to be fair, Lisa was looking at the outside initially, then came to the inside. I think Alberto thought there was a gap there, and the gap suddenly disappeared. I suspect 6 of one and half a dozen of the other, Nico.
I'll refrain from making a judgment. That is down to Claudio Garavini and the race control team. 2 seconds, less than 2 seconds now between Sandman and Koenig. It's really coming down. There is proof on the screen. Fastest lap, Andreas Koenig.
I just hope none of those drivers picked up any of the debris there. But there is Andreas Koenig then. The gap now, as Nico has said, down to 1.961 between P1 and P2. Koenig has clearly got pace. Sandman has clearly got pace because he built up a big margin over Boris Gideon, but it proves that Boris was a little bit of a cork in a bottle, Nico, with regards to the fight going on, because now Andreas Koenig has been released. Well, he is like a speeding fast thing, isn't he, as he's trying to keep on terms with Jan Sandman, but I think Jan is trying to respond a little bit as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Just stretch the lead a little bit. Let's see. In terms of track limits, we haven't really touched up on that. Boris Gideon is at 3, so on the threshold of picking up a penalty. Louis Peruska at 3, because number 4, once you've been told you've exceeded the track limits a 4th time, that's where a 5-second penalty is incoming. Anybody else still fairly safe, but those 2 have to be careful.
So they're the ones that are in peril potentially. Right, here's Alberto Duran then with a bit of damage to the front right-hand side as we look at the picture car from that contact with Lisa Clark. Lisa Clark is still running. Alberto Duran in the pit lane as that incident is under investigation by race control. They'll take a look at it. They have many more camera angles at their disposal, as Andreas Koenig is going to have to be careful here with regards to track limits and with regards to chasing down. Now you can see the lap evolution that Koenig is quick, and he is now almost within shouting distance of the race leader Jan Sandman. There's Paolo Scudieri. Paolo is running in that P8 position ahead of Stephen Earle, then Pino Frascaro. They are P8, 9 and 10 at the moment in this Ferrari Challenge Coperchel Am race. One of two this weekend here at Hockenheim in Germany. Big shout out to Hassan Debussy running in P6. Brilliant position for Hassan Debussy to be in. Done a good job in qualifying, and he felt when I spoke to him at lunchtime that he'd got even a bit more pace in the car as well, and certainly he's racing it really well. So Paolo Scudieri, there is Dr. Stephen Earle, as the gap between Sandman and Koenig is not coming down in quite the lumps it was, although after saying that, Koenig has just taken some more out of him, and the gap is, I think, 1.2 seconds between them. What have we got left in the race? 11.5 minutes plus 1 lap. There's time.
Absolutely, there is time. Both also picked up a track limit warning, which puts their tally at 2 apiece. So they also have to be careful, as does everybody else. A third track limit excursion for Paolo Scudieri as well. So this is something that we always hope doesn't come into the picture at the end of the race. But it is part of it. And if you are clean and tidy and someone else is more wayward and taking liberties with the tracks, you have an argument to say, well, actually, at some point there has to be consequences. So we always want the race to be decided on the track, but if you can't keep the car on the track, there are consequences.
Yes, there are other parties that could play a part in how the race ends up. The gap now between P1 and P2 is under a second, Nico. You can actually see it on screen. Let's ride on board with the man that is running P1, who knows that he has got Andreas Koenig really pressuring him now. Jan Sandman then doing a very good job out front, but undoubtedly quicker at the moment is Andreas Koenig. This could be a very good lesson from Charlie Hollings, Jan Sandman's driver coach, in terms of, right, stick your elbows out and make that car wider than it really is. Let Koenig do all the hard work. He's got to find a way by. It's all very well him being quicker. He's got to find a way by. Here at Hockenheim, as we've seen from Andreas, there are plenty of places where you can overtake. Can he make it happen in the next 10 minutes plus 1 lap, Nico?
We will all find out. We will watch this with great anticipation. And Jan Sandman, in fairness, he has had a much more quiet race and therefore arguably should have been able to preserve his tires more than Andreas Koenig by pushing. But that's the theory, as Shintaro Akatsu with Hassan Debussy, I believe, in front of him, and he makes that move. A little bit of a mistake, running too wide there, but which made it easier for Shintaro Akatsu, and that means Akatsu is now running in P6.
He didn't need 2 invitations, did he? But great move by Shintaro Akatsu, taking advantage, and you can see how he's moved up the road now. It's down to 7 tenths. Make that 6 tenths now between P1 and P2. A small mistake there from Jan Sandman on the entry to the hairpin. That plays into the hands really rather nicely of Andreas Koenig as well. We ride on board with a rearward-facing onboard camera as there is a time penalty being awarded to Boris Gideon, I can see from our message screen here. And that will be for track limits. You can see as we split the screen that Alberto Duran is having to retire his car. On screen, also confirmation of that time penalty of 5 seconds for track limits excursions for Boris Gideon. And someone off there. I can see the smoke coming off from the gravel. So that was turn 12, yellow flag being shown there. Meantime, Andreas Koenig continues unabated, almost onto the gearbox of the car of Jan Sandman right now. This is the fight for the lead. So who is it that's gone off? Could be Alexei Komarov. So waved yellow, you can see there. Safety car. Safety car is out. Wow. If we could have planned this script any better, we wouldn't have written it in any different way, because with just 7 3/4 minutes plus 1 lap remaining, here comes the safety car to nullify any gaps, Nico.
Yeah, and that is the Alexei Komarov car, as you rightly predicted, and he is in the gravel but fairly close to the racing line, so no question about that necessitating an intervention. Obviously for Boris Gideon, whose 5-second penalty is magnified because he only would have been in to lose 1 position to Sven Schirmer. Now, however long the safety car is there, everybody will be bunched up, so 5 seconds turns from 1 position loss to potentially 6 or 7 or more. He won't be happy about that, but that's how the races and the regulations are. Jan Sandman, he won't be happy about the gap, although maybe he gets a little bit of a breather. Andreas Koenig, he might think, well, preserve my tires a little bit.
Keep it cool. I mean, to be fair to Jan, he's done a great job in defending. There is no question that Andreas is quicker. As we've said 100 times, it's all very well being quicker than the car in front of you. You've got to find a way by as well, and that's not so easy. But, of course, there are going to be so many drivers champing at the bit when the safety car comes in. And there is Alexei Komarov out of the car. He's perfectly okay. It's just one of those things, wasn't it? He'd taken a drive-through penalty, and the car ends up in the gravel. So a bit of work for our friends at Scuderia Prague to do to get that car sorted, ready for qualifying for tomorrow, which I do not doubt for one moment they will.
Absolutely. And, you know, you've got some drivers who will think, well, you know, recovery team, just take it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Check every connection twice. Just make sure, you know, it's very, very steady. And others will be like,
come on,
quicker. And now they're effectively, let's see if we can see it from the shot when they come around, because that's where the Komarov car will be.
I was about to say, clearly this is a German track. Very efficient. Germans. They're going to get that recovered very quickly, aren't they, Nico? Your country folk.
Right. We'll find out. Proof is going to be given. There is a recovery vehicle of some description.
That'll be a tractor then. But they're not far from a safety area where they can get that behind that concrete wall. It'll probably be the remainder of this lap. Maybe one more.
Well, they're just finishing this lap, so they will have until the end of the second sector line.
There you can see Max Blancardi. There you can see Giacomo Altoe.
If he were any cooler, he would be a fridge. 5 minutes remaining plus 1 lap. It's going to be interesting. Can they recover the car by the time
There's the driver coach I wanted to see, which is Charlie Hollings. Now, Charlie, very, very experienced racing driver, very good driver coach. He is driver coach to the guy that is leading the race right now, which is Jan Sandman. I'd love to be a fly on the wall. I mean, to be fair, we've had Charlie Hollings in this studio with us on a number of occasions. He is always very, very free with his information and what he's telling people. Yeah, just a real pity, and it's something I'm going to suggest to our broadcast team that we plug into their, if we're allowed, into their radio comms so that we can actually hear what Charlie is saying to Jan in terms of trying to keep him cool, Nico. Because it's going to be a dash for cash come the end of this race. Whenever the safety car does come in, and I don't think it's going to be long, and there is still time for the lights to go out on the safety car on this lap.
Yeah, absolutely. And one question, especially here with the Motordrome, where do you give it a footfall? Where do you start? Because through the Motordrome, there is, no overtaking before the safety car line anyway.
But it's pace, isn't it?
It's pace, and if you can find the sweet spot, you can get a big gap there. But it's going to be down to Sandman and Koenig. Whenever we go back racing...
It's coming in this lap, forgive me, with spirit of excitement that I have. The safety car is coming in at the end of this lap, Nico. So we're going to have maybe 2.5 minutes plus 1 lap of racing.
Yeah, probably 3 laps remaining by the time we go back under green flag conditions. It's now time to reset, prepare the car, be ready.
Charlie is saying, right, just keep it... He's not saying anything because his mouth is closed, but that's metaphorically what he would be saying is just, Jan, keep it cool. Andreas Koenig needs to ascertain when Jan Sandman is going to give it 100% on the accelerator pedal. That's a real tall order. It's very difficult to second guess when someone's going to go for it. When are they going to go, Nico? When's Jan going to go here?
Yeah, it's difficult. I think it will be before the final 2 succession of 2 final turns, but we will find out. The safety car has pulled away. Nobody's
Giacomo
weaving.
Altoe is in there. Right, Salmon has gone for it, so has Andreas. I think he anticipated it reasonably well. Tyres will have cooled down a bit now, bring them back up to temperature, and let's get going as we resume this race. And when they crossed the timing line, there was 4.5 tenths between Jan Sam and Andreas Koenig. They've already broken away a good bit from Boris Gideon. He's got a time penalty to serve as well anyway. Right, when is Koenig going to have a go here? Takes a look at the inside of Jan Sandman now. We can see from being on board, Sandman closed the door, but now on the Parabolica gifts another opportunity potentially to Andreas Koenig. Going up to the hairpin, there are different lines that you can take. Which way is Yang going to go to defend? Try and place the car right in the middle of the track. That's what he needs to do. Koenig takes a look at the inside, takes a look at the outside. Giacomo Altoe, of course, his driver coach for the Emil Frey team, will be advising. Sandman gets sideways on the exit. That has cost him valuable time. Koenig goes alongside right now, but of course, whilst it's the inside for this turn, it becomes the outside for the next turn. Jan Salmon runs onto the grass. He controlled it so well, but now runs wide. The pressure that was coming from Andreas Koenig has lost it. He's gone around. My goodness me, Nico. Not how I thought that was going to play out at all.
No, absolutely not. I'm not sure how that rejoin went from Andreas Koenig. I mean, it went from bad to worse. It looked like Sandman had lost the lead, and then all of a sudden it was Koenig who effectively followed in the footsteps of him.
Indeed.
And wow, all of a sudden Jan Salmon finds himself back in the lead with a little bit of a cushion, just under a minute remaining. So what has this race still in store for us?
Well, of course, Sven Schirmer is now effectively up to P2 because Boris Gideon has got a time penalty to serve at the end of the race. That 5 seconds will be added, which will elevate not only Sven Schirmer, but Charles Chan as well, potentially. Yellow flag at turn 12. We're riding on board.
And we see Shintaro Ankatsu also dropping down our timing screen, so maybe more drama that we didn't pick up on screen. Andreas Koenig also has dropped way down the order. And
what a
he's
shame.
Running in P15.
Oh, he stopped.
Oh, now he stopped, yeah.
Now, is that on the track, Nico? It is on the track. That he's obviously got because he did make contact with the wall, I think, when he spun, didn't he? Now that could mean that the race is over effectively. Let's get a replay here. Oh, this is of the overtake. But it was Salmon who went really, really wide. At this point, there you can see he does make contact with the wall.
Yeah, glances it a little bit, not too much, but
I think from this angle you'll see that it's actually a bit more than a little bit, I believe. He's on the grass now where he is, but a passenger. He is sideways. It's the front corner rather than side on, isn't it? So, But anyway, here is Jan Salmon. I mean, that was, well, harem-scarum stuff, really, in this race.
I think this is where Andreas Koenig had been stopped.
He's managed to get it going again.
I don't know, but certainly looked like that was the position where the car had been, but certainly isn't there. So no safety car, so that would maybe indicate that the car is in a safe position. Final lap starting now.
So here comes Jan Salmon then, who will cross the line. And Jan Salmon has got one more lap to do. Boris Gideon P2 on track. Sven Schirmer P3, but on track that will become P2 when it comes to the classification if everything stays the way it is right now. As I say, Charles Chan and Paolo Scudieri and Hassan Debussy potentially all moving up a place due to the time penalty for track limits that Boris Gideon will have. Wow. That was an extraordinary sequence of events, I have to say, one which I did not expect to end the way they did. So Shintaro Akatsu, Andreas Koenig are both in the pit lane, Nico, so you were right to pick up on the fact that Shintaro Akatsu had gone out as well. There's the 5 seconds on the graphics left-hand side of your screen against Boris Gideon. That gets added to his race time at the end of the race. So for Jan Salmon then, for Kessel Racing, where there is no doubt about it, he was under immense pressure from Andreas Koenig, but dare I say it, Nico, Andreas put pressure upon himself as well, and it all went horribly wrong.
Yeah.
And the one that came out smiling, remarkably, is Jan Salmon, who kept his cool.
Absolutely. Sometimes it happens in the most unorthodox ways, but Jan Salmon is heading towards victory. Didn't think that would happen when he went off the line at that corner.
I agree with you. So he has but 3 turns still to do. And the driver of the 186 car, Jan Salmon, then will be heading towards the checkered flag. It's been a drama-filled race from the Ferrari Challenge Copa Shalam as Jan Salmon is victorious and takes the win. Ahead of Boris Gideon on track, but he drops down because Sven Schirmer and Charles Chan take P2, P3. Boris Gideon is confirmed as P4 ahead of Paolo Scudieri. Then it's Hassan Debussy and Stephen Earle. Pino Frascaro, Alois Mayer. Wow, Nico, I don't know whether I've got enough superlatives to describe that Copa Shell Am race.
Yeah, absolutely. It's certainly one of the most extraordinary, unexpected change of events. And you could argue that probably Andreas Koenig, if Jan Salmon had kept it on the track, probably would be in a better position now than he was otherwise, because that has to distract you as a driver. It has to just distract you because you sense the opportunity. You want to put everything into that very moment to get the lead, and yeah, maybe just try that extra little bit too early on the throttle. I'm sure we'll talk to him, we'll find out, but fact is Jan Salmon, we can see on his victory lap, and we will hear from him in a few moments' time. He will be jolly happy that he got the win on home soil, making it a 1-2 for the German drivers, Jan Salmon and Sven Schirmer, who will pick up.
I mean, you can take nothing away from any of the drivers, can you? Because, yeah, it was a really, really extraordinary race. Charles Chan for Formula Racing, P3. Now, to the best of my knowledge, that's Charles' first podium in Copa Shalam.
Certainly here in Europe this season, definitely. And yeah, I think you're right. And he'll be jolly happy. Boris Gideon, P4, collects valuable points. Let's not lose sight of that. He's still very much a contender in the championship. In spite of the penalty, he recovered to just edge Paolo Scudieri by, well, 6/100 of a second, with the penalty included. So gets valuable points from this race. In Parc Fermé, winner's circle, Jan Salmon.
So we'll watch him exit the car then. I suspect Charlie, his driver coach, will want to be one of the first over there to offer and afford his congratulations to him. Did a good job. It's actually his engineer who's first there. And there is Sven Schirmer with both his driver coaches. And the hugely emotional Italian driver coaches that he has. Really, really delighted for him. And yeah, out gets Sven Schirmer, who I have to say, when he removes his crash helmet, he probably won't thank me for this. He looks a lot like Father Christmas. Forgive me. Just thought I'd say that, you know.
All right.
Charles Chan, many congratulations. Andrea Fausti there offering his congratulations to Charles Chan. Andrea does a lot of work with the Ferrari Challenge in Japan as well. And but there is no mistaking our race winner, and that is the Kessel Racing driver Jan Salmon. Did a fantastic job. Here's confirmation of the classification then. Jan Salmon takes the win from Sven Schirmer. Then it was Charles Chan and Boris Gideon ahead of Paolo Scudieri. Hassan Debussy, great result for Hassan. Stephen Earle, P7. Then it was Pino Frascaro, who took the P8 position in that Shell Am race ahead of Alois Mayer. Louis Peruscua, Lisa Clark, Matthias Moser, Alvaro Ramos, Shintaro Akatsu, Andreas Koenig. They're classified P14 and 15 with Alexei Komarov and Alberto Duran. That's the way it looks, the confirmed classification then from race control after penalties have been awarded as applicable. And this then, the Kessel Racing car, the Ferrari Challenge 296 car that has delivered for Jan Salmon. Of course, he had to pedal it, you know. And we will be hearing from Jan in just a few moments' time. Jan Salmon, a very, very nice young man, and clearly a very, very good driver as well. And yeah, he had to defend hard, and he did manage to keep his cool and hold on to it all. And he has become victorious in race 1 at Hockenheim, Jan Salmon.
Wow, Jan, congratulations from pole position to victory. A solo race in the first part and a defensive race in the final part. How do you feel?
Thank you so much. I feel very relaxed right now because I put a lot of pressure on myself before, and my brain got a little bit weak towards the end of the race. Everybody could see this, but at the end, yeah, thanks also to my team, I managed to stay in front. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well done indeed. It was race 1 of the weekend. Ferrari Challenge, Copa Shell Am. As the cars approached the lights then, and the lights went out, it was a good start from Jan Salmon. Good start also from Boris Gideon, but Andreas Koenig getting something of a slingshot into the turn 1, turn 2 sequence, which puts him up to P3, and he would then put the chase on to Boris Gideon. Sven Schirmer then relegated to P4 as Alexei Komarov and Shintaro Akatsu had something of a coming together through the hairpin, and then all of a sudden around goes the car of Alvaro Ramos. No contact involved with any other car. So it was back further down the order where Lisa Clark losing out, but then getting the switch back and making it work once again. And you could see frustration in the garages, but Andreas Koenig was on something of a mission here and managing to get by Boris Gideon in a place that ordinarily you would not expect an overtake to happen. Alberto Duran and Lisa Clark regrettably would have a coming together, and in the meantime it was Jan Salmon just holding on to this lead, but at this point Andreas Koenig was getting ever closer, and the safety car really played into their hands. Jan Salmon running wide, but then Andreas Koenig losing the back end of the car as well, and that meant that his challenge for the lead of the race was over, and it would be Jan Salmon that would head to the checkered flag to take P1 ahead of Boris Gideon, who got a time penalty. So it was Sven Schirmer that took P2 and Charles Chan took P3. Shortly, we will be heading up to the podium to celebrate the 1, 2, 3 in Ferrari Challenge. As is always the case, Michele Mambelli is there to orchestrate the podium ceremonies.
Hockenheim, third on the podium, Charles Chan. Second driver on the podium, Sven Schirmer. And the winner is Jan Salmon. National anthem. On podium, Kessel Racing Team.
So Kessel, of course, will be represented on the podium for the Copa Teams trophy. There's von Skeltermar. And Mr. Antonello Coletta making the trophy presentations. He's the global head of endurance and Corsa Clienti at Ferrari, and very nice chap, if I may say so. He presents the P3 to Charles Chan, then the P2 to Sven Schirmer. But the race winner award will go to the P1 driver, which is Jan Salmon. Of course, Kessel Racing will be in receipt of the Copa Teams trophy as well. All presented by Antonello Coletta, then, global head of endurance and Corsa Clienti for Ferrari. Everyone together for the photographs, of course. First podium photographs here at Hockenheim this weekend. It's our third race weekend in the Ferrari Challenge for 2025. Kessel and Mr. Coletta will make haste their escape, as who's going to be quickest with the champagne. Wow, it's Charles Chan by a country mile. Well done, sir.
Absolutely, no question about that. No photo finish or VAR required. Here is the man, quickest with the champagne, P3 on the podium.
Yes, Charles Chan for Formula Racing then taking that P3 place. Penske Sportwagen Hamburg. Sven Schirmer, P2. But for Kessel Racing, their driver, Jan Sandman, the driver of the 296 Challenge car, numbered 186. Victorious. So there we have it then, our Ferrari Challenge Copa Am race complete. In the Drivers' Championship, Sven Schirmer, by a point, is leading Boris Gideon. Then it's Henrik Hamstrup and Andreas Koenig ahead of Andrea Levy. Paolo Scudieri and Nurakatsu Shibata, who's missing this weekend, and Shintaro Akatsu, P8 in the Copa Am Drivers' Championship. Jan Sandman up 16 places, look at that, to P9. Then it's Guy Favre. Charles Chan, who's just been on the podium. Hassan Tabusi, then Alexei Komarov, Alwar Mayer and Stephen Earle occupying the next positions ahead of Germana Toniella, Pino Frascaro, Alvaro Ramos, Fritz Muller, Louis Peruscua, Lisa Clark and Talal Shayer then occupying positions 16 through 22 in the Ferrari Challenge Copa Am Drivers' Championship. So as we take a look at the images from that fantastic Ferrari Challenge Copa Am race, I remind you, 2 more races to come from the Ferrari Challenge here at Hockenheim. But for the moment, our Copa Am drivers have done us proud and delivered a superb 30-minute Ferrari Challenge race. Hello everyone and welcome to Germany and welcome to the sunshine and welcome to the Ferrari Challenge. This is round 3 of our 2025 calendar as we come here to the Hockenheim circuit for the first race of the weekend for our Ferrari Challenge Pirelli and Pirelli AM drivers that will take to the track, some 22 of them all told, because we mix up the Pirelli and the Pirelli AM drivers together. And as the nice graphics say, welcome to Hockenheim, this 4.5 kilometer circuit then, which is situated about an hour from Frankfurt, maybe an hour and a half from Stuttgart. It is round 3 before we head off to the Czech Republic and Brno. Then a double header, round 5 and round 6, one in June, one in July, but they're both in España as we go to Valencia and Barcelona. Then it's Spa-Francorchamps. And then Mugello as the Finale Mondiale event takes place in Italy. There to the left-hand side of the picture is Antonello Coletta. To the right-hand side of your picture is Andrea Mladisic, both senior management members of Ferrari Corsa Clienti, and darned nice chaps they are too. I'm bound to say that, really, aren't I? 41 degrees, the track temperature, the air temperature is 18 degrees. The contract will not be renewed, Dave. And we have both Pirelli and Pirelli AM drivers. And yes, we have some 9 Pirelli drivers and 11 or 12 Pirelli AM drivers. As Felix Herziger we can look at right now for the Reparto Corsa RAM team, a Nico, who put it on pole position for the Pirelli drivers and the Pirelli AM drivers. It was Marco Zanassi. Now, if you're worried about how to identify the cars out there on track, then the Pirelli cars have got a red strip across the top of the windscreen. The AM cars have a white strip across the top of the windscreen. That's how you can tell who is driving in what category. As we're looking at Manuela Ghost and Daniele Mancinelli and Giorgio Sonagiotto there. And that is a beautiful picture of a beautiful car. The number 77 car of Gilles Renmans that drives for Francorchamps Motors Brussels and is going from P4 on the grid for today's 30-minute plus 1 lap race. 2 races, of course, for the Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli and Pirelli AM drivers. Warm welcome to Germany, warm welcome to my German co-host alongside me, Nico Spalek, as we're delighted to welcome one Mr. Enzo Trilli to the Ferrari Challenge grid.
Yeah, absolutely. Welcome everybody. A famous name on a famous car on a famous circuit. A perfect combination in the sunshine. Couldn't be better here in Hockenheim for this afternoon. We already had a Copper Shell AM race. This is Trofeo Pirelli, got a Copper Shell afterwards. The full package for the fans, and we have quite a few of them in the grandstands, actually.
I agree with you, yes. It's a really nice festival atmosphere here in Hockenheim, I have to say. As Yasin Ferrati, then, who is one of our Pirelli drivers, drives for the Emil Frey Racing organisation. He's going from P3 on the grid. And I was talking to Yasin earlier on. I first met him during some esports racing a few years ago, and Yasin, young 21-year-old, full of talent and full of hope for this race, which of course follows racing in Misano. So that was how the races looked in Misano. What's really interesting is that Two drivers took 2 wins apiece. One Pirelli driver, and that was Felix Herziger, who goes from pole position here. And the Pirelli AM drivers, Marco Zanassi, took 2 wins, and he goes from pole position for the AM drivers. Make of that what you will in terms of the form guide. But there you can see the Motor Service Panetti Motorsport driver, Marco Zanassi, then, who, as I mentioned, is going from P1 for his category. So, the 2 categories placed in the same race. So, Pirelli drivers and Pirelli AM drivers as well. And as I mentioned, very successful for both our pole sitters when it was Misano, but of course we're in a very different style of circuit to that we had in Italy. And there we can see Herbert Geis, the Maranello Motors driver. Final check on the belts there as Herbert Geis, who will be going from a very good qualifying position for our AM drivers. He's going from P4. This is Henri Acide. Now, Henri Acide has moved up from Copachel into the Pirelli AM drivers, and Henri Acide then from his qualification earlier on, he's now a Pirelli driver from Pirelli AM because he won the Shell category last year, immediately got put into Pirelli AM for this year, and now has been moved up to Pirelli, and he goes from P6 on the grid. So there is the grid with 3 minutes away from the race getting underway. 30 minutes plus 1 lap, always a rolling start in the Ferrari Challenge. The formation lap will be led by the safety car, and then it will peel off into the pit lane. It will be the responsibility of the Felix Herziger and Vincenzo Scarpetta cars that are on the first row of the grid to control the pace of the rolling start as the cars will head towards the lighting gantry. All that to come in around about 3 or 4 minutes' time. So the Ferrari Challenge then, a unique and very revered one-make series that takes place not only here in Europe but also in the UK, in Australasia, North America and Japan as well. As right now, let's give you the opportunity to go inside the Ferrari Challenge and find out more.
It was the autumn of 1992 when for the first time the single mark trophy was launched on the Misano track, debuting after on the Monza circuit in the 1993. Since that year, the Ferrari Challenge has animated the most important track of the world of the motorsport, and in this way, Ferrari given us the opportunity to their clients and the customers to try their cars. But now, the real question is, how much do you know about this championship? Let's taste it. In this championship, the drivers are divided into 4 classes, depending on the level of the competitiveness and racing experience. From this point of view, in decreasing order, the classes are Trofeo Pirelli, with the most experienced drivers, Trofeo Pirelli AM, Coppa Shell, Coppa Shell AM. In addition to competing for the title of champion of the specific class they belong to, the top-placed drivers of each continental series compete each other every year in the World Finals, a unique race that decrees the world champions for each class. Once you understand how the Ferrari Challenge is composed, it's time to get on the track and see how our drivers compete. Each weekend is made up of tests, free practice, qualifying, to best prepare for race 1 and race 2 on Saturday and Sunday. 30 minutes of racing plus 1 lap, no driver change, no stops, to give even more spectacle in the Ferrari Challenge rounds.
Thank you, Ludovica, then, inside the Ferrari Challenge. So 4.574 kilometers, the Hockenheim circuit, and depending on how you count the turns, you can either make it 16 or 17. I personally prefer 16. It's a track made up of some really technical parts and then some all-out speed parts as well, particularly the Parabolica heading up towards the hairpin. It's a fantastic circuit. And right on time, the cars are released on their formation lap. We'll bring you the grid in full from back to front. Our AM drivers and also our Pirelli drivers too. Those that make up the 22 that will contest this 30-minute plus 1 race for the Ferrari Challenge. Delighted that you've joined us. Welcome to the Ferrari Challenge. We're live from Hockenheim. So on board the Richard Mille safety car, it's Rafael Duran and Otto Blank going from P22 and 21. From P20, Armin Arifpour and Matt Rosner going from P19. David Gerstner and David Akabadze share the 9th row of our grid. These are all Pirelli Am drivers, with Andrew Morrow and Danilo Del Favero P16 and 15. Hanno Luskowski and Herbert Geis go from P14 and P13. They contest at row 7. On row 12, it's Mikael Verhagen and Hendrik Viol. It's Marco Zanassi going from pole position for our Am drivers. And then it's Quinn Wiedlisbach, Pirelli driver. Dylan Medler and Max Mugelli, then they go from those positions. Then it's Henri Acide and Enzo Trilli, Gilles Renman and Yasin Ferrati on the 2nd row, P4 and P3. Then it is Vincenzo Scarpetta and Felix Herziger going from the front row of the grid. So Felix Herziger then, who was very successful in Misano, he's done it in qualifying here in Germany. Will he be able to do it in the race as well? Only time will tell.
Yeah, so great qualifying session for us here in Hockenheim. We managed to put in our time in lap 3, which saved us some tire for the race, because this will be very, very important as the track uses a lot of tires. So I'm hoping for a clean race, for a fair race between all of the competitors. And I think after like 15-20 minutes, it will be very interesting for you guys to watch, because the tires will diminish more and more. So stay tuned, and thank you to my team Ineco, Reparto Corse, and Neupack, of course, my sponsor.
Thank you, Felix. Then we're very much looking forward to seeing how you do during the course of this race. So he told us what to look out for. Stand by, hold on to anything that might be loose fitting, because we are about to go racing. There you can see just how close it is on the grid then at the start of this race. Safety car will peel off into the pit lane. It'll be indicating right any moment from now, and diving into that pit lane. It will be the responsibility of Felix Herziger and Vincenzo Scarpetta to control the pace of the rolling start then. Our mix of Pirelli and Pirelli Am drivers. I remind you, Pirelli drivers with the red strip across the top of their windscreen. Am drivers with the white strip across the top of their windscreen. Lighting gantry to the top of the screen for you. And stand by as we get ready. Let's go racing. Henri Acide trying to make good right at the start of the race. Felix Herziger. Henri Acide almost on the grass there. Felix Herziger going through. Yasin Ferrati with a good start. And already someone into the tyre barriers at turn number 1. Meantime, Yasin Ferrati then with a very, very good start. He's put it up to P2. But it is Felix Herziger that has managed to just convert that pole position into the lead of the race, and dropping out of the order. I think it's Quinn Wiedlisbach might be in strife. Also Dylan Medler, according to the timing screen that we can see. Here comes Yasin Ferrati now. Going to go around the hairpin here and try and take that P1 position away from Felix Herziger, but Herziger was able to stick his elbows out and make the car as wide as possible and deny Yasin Ferrati the opportunity to come through. Now Hendrik Viol is leading in terms of the Am drivers. So a disaster for Marco Zanassi, for whatever reason, dropped way back down the order. We will see when we get a replay of the start exactly what happened. And we've got a safety car already. I'm not surprised by that, because certainly we've got one car off in turn number 1. And with the way things are looking with regards to the Am drivers as well, Hendrik Viol leading, I just wonder whether we have got strife for other drivers as well. Sure enough, we have, and that is the number 22 car of Quinn Wiedlisbach. You can see the 2 front wheels are pointing in slightly incorrect directions, so strife there for Quinn Wiedlisbach. Safety car is called for. All the cars, of course, will be returning to pace after this safety car, but for now it's all down to the safety car controlling the pace of this cautionary period. And not even one lap completed before the safety car was called for. So in replay then, let's take a look at this start and what on earth happened. So as the cars all head up to turn number 1, Henri Acide was the one that was trying to make a move early on. You could see him almost on the grass as he was trying to get past the car in front. Just watch from about the third row back. There you can see Henri Acide really going for it here, getting squeezed almost onto the grass. Dylan Medler, I think it's Dylan Medler that ended up in the barriers there. And I don't know whether he had a coming together with Max Mugelli, or was it Quinn Wietlisbach? Great shame. And there you could see the damaged Quinn Wietlisbach car. See again from this camera angle, we're right on board with our pole sitter. Great start from Yacine Ferrati. All the cars run wide. And you just see at the back of the picture how some cars into the barriers there. And again from Yacine Ferrati as we go on board with his onboard camera then, chasing as hard as he could Felix Herziger, and he'd already moved up into the P2 position. And Yacine Ferrati, I know, I spoke to him, and he was hoping that he would be able to convert and have a good race. His qualifying of FP sessions didn't go the way he wanted them to. Hendrik Viol with a very good start as well. Incidentally, Hendrik Viol is leading for the AM drivers. So the top 3 for Pirelli, it's Herziger, Ferrati and Enzo Trulli. And for our AM drivers, Hendrik Viol, Herbert Geis and Hanno Laskowski. That's the way it looks in each of the categories. So the reason we're behind the safety car is for the recovery of the Max Mugelli, Dylan Medler and Quinn Wietlisbach cars. Once those cars, if necessary, have been recovered, and there you can see the unmistakable sight of the very tall driver from Miami. That is Dylan Medler, who sadly is out of the race. Great shame. Dylan is such a good driver. Was racing just last weekend in Miami, and has taken a win here in Ferrari Challenge Europe as well. Took a win in the second race at Monza, did Dylan. Very good driver. Great shame to see him out of the race. His team will be bitterly disappointed, and so will Dylan too. But great to see him walking away from the car perfectly okay. And he will come back tomorrow for sure when it comes to qualifying and the race as well. So riding on board with the Richard Mills safety car, then the clock continues to count down when we're in a safety car period. And we reach the 25 minutes plus 1 lap duration right now. And I would think probably the remainder of this lap, and we could see the safety car in at the end of this lap, potentially. It depends how well the recovery operation is going on, but I didn't think there was anything there. There's certainly no barrier damage, so I would think it will be a pretty quick recovery. The team here at Hockenheim working really well and really quickly, so hopefully we can go back to racing very soon. Of course, all the cars will be bunched back up again, and it will be interesting to see. Yacine Ferrati will consider this a gift, really, another opportunity for him to really try and have a go at Felix Herziger. But what he needs to do is anticipate when Felix will give it a real footfall when it comes to the restart. Now, the incident in turn number 1 is going to be investigated after the race, we are being told by race control. So clearly they feel it was more than just a racing incident and that it is worthy of investigation. Not to say any penalties will be awarded or not, because it will be looked at after the race. But for 3 drivers, it's regrettably, or certainly for 2 drivers, Dylan Medler and Quinn Wietlisbach, and also for Max Mugelli, of course. So, no indication yet that the safety car will come in. Now, they would have to advise the drivers kind of by now whether the safety car was coming in. The visual notification is the lights going out on the top of the safety car, and the safety car is right where our graphics is on the left hand side of our screen, so we can't see. It's just too late now, I would have thought. Safety car stays out, so it'll be at least 1 more lap behind the safety car before we go back to racing proper. I would have suggested 23.5 minutes plus 1 lap. There is Marco Zanassi. Don't know what happened right at the start of the race, but he's certainly getting caught out and dropping way down the order. In fact, in class, Marco Zanassi is maybe P6 or 7. There's the David Akabadze car. So, Felix Herziger, Yacine Ferrati, Enzo Trulli. Top 3 Pirelli drivers, top 3 AM drivers, Hendrik Viol, Herbert Geis, Hanno Laskowski. through past turn 1, now turn 2 and turn 3, and we're on to the Parabolica as we ride on board with the Richard Mille safety car. And this is Hendrik Viol. He was the bridesmaid in the championship last year, came so close to taking the championship, had a great fight with Klaus Zabrantzen all the way to the final race of the championship last year. He's sitting P3 or 4 in the Drivers' Championship at the moment, and would like to take that championship this year. Drives for the Scuderia Prague racing team, and of course, interestingly, we will be off to the Czech Republic for our next round of the Ferrari Challenge after our weekend here in Hockenheim as we go to the Bunos circuit, which is, if it's a circuit you've never been to, it's well worth it. It's a fantastic circuit to go to. Really enjoy it. We've not been there for a few years. Safety car will come in at the end of this lap, I'm being advised, and so too are you now, because it's on the screen in confirmation. Safety car coming in this lap. So, down to Felix Herziger then to control the pace and also to decide when he wants to give it everything on the gas pedal. And it's Yassin Ferrati that needs to try and anticipate when Felix Herziger is going to go for it. You can see him weaving from side to side, Yassin Ferrati, because we ride on board with him right now. He's trying to maintain temperature in those tyres because during the safety car phase, both the tyres and the brakes will have lost temperature. And there, as we split the shot, you can go into the garages as well. And we're inside the garage of Emil Frey Racing, the team that engineer Yassin Ferrati. Enzo Trilli will, of course, be seeking this as an opportunity to get by Yassin Ferrati. As Felix Herziger goes for it right now, it's pretty reasonable anticipation from Yassin Ferrati. As we go back to racing, the top two have broken away a little bit from the rest of the pack around the final turn, the Südkurve or South Curve, or South Turn. The cars come, and it's as we were then in terms of the 1, 2, 3, Felix Herziger, Yassin Ferrati, Enzo Trilli. And let's go back to racing. Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli style with the Pirelli and Pirelli Am drivers giving it their all. Hendrik Viol has got the comfort cushion of Henri Acide, a Pirelli driver between himself and Herbert Guys. Let's ride on board right now. This is what it looks like inside the wonderful 296 Challenge cars. Then Yassin Ferrati that we ride on board with. Here's the telemetry. 272 kilometers per hour before they start braking. 262, 270 he got to before the hairpin. Turn in. You can use different lines around the hairpin. It's a bit of a pinch point on the Hockenheim circuit. I absolutely love it. Because it provides the opportunity for overtakes, and you can actually overtake going through this turn and into the next sequence of turns as well, depending on your exit from the hairpin. But you've got to be made of stern stuff, as Felix Herziger doing a really, really good job here. Not under pressure from Yassin Ferrati. Ferrati running P2, love that flip-flop cam, where you can see just how quick these wonderful 296 Challenge cars are. So you can see Herziger has built a margin of about a second over Yassin Ferrati already, and Yassin, I think, is just having to consider how lively Enzo Trilli is looking. There is Enzo Trilli driving the number 34 car, of course a famed surname in motor racing. And Enzo Trilli then delighted to welcome him into the Ferrari Challenge. More strife for Marco Zanazzi. And I wonder if that's why his start was balked. No, because Marco Zanazzi, look at this. Something's broken on the front of the car. He did very, very well to save that car from making contact with the barriers. Strife for Marco Zanazzi. Yellow flag at turns 10 and 11 that the drivers will be aware of, and they're going to have to lift for those. So the day has gone from bad to worse for Marco Zanazzi. 18.5 minutes plus 1 lap of Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli Racing here at Hockenheim. There, then the number 34 car of Enzo Trilli driving for Radici Automobili, and the safety car is called for again. So that will be for the recovery of the Marco Zanazzi car as the safety car is out. I wasn't counting how many laps we did without the safety car, but it was not many more than 2, I would have suggested. And all the cars back down to safe speed again. Safety car is brought out. And there is a hugely disappointed Marco Zanassi. Now, if that's the only car that has got to be recovered, it's going to be a very, very short safety car intervention, because it will just be the recovery of the Marco Zanassi car, who was leading the Pirelli Am points going into this race, having taken 2 victories, 2 pole positions at Misano. He's taken pole position here, but that's as much as he's going to be able to do. I would suggest his race is done and dusted. Clock continues, of course, to tick down whilst we are in the safety car phase. And as I say, I'm pretty sure it will be a relatively short safety car phase for the recovery of the Marco Zanassi car. Stricken out there on the track, and I believe that even as we speak, it is being recovered right now. We've got various cameras that we can call upon in our studio, so therefore we can see some images which just give us some indication of what's going on out there in terms of recoveries. And fastest lap comes from Hendrik Viol, a Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli Am driver, driving for the Scuderia Prague team. And there indeed is the Scuderia Prague team that's led by Ivo Horn, and yeah, doing a good job in Scuderia Prague, and doing a good job is their driver Hendrik Viol. So second safety car period in as many laps, I would suggest, and well, for Marco Zanassi it's gone from bad to worse. It's been torrid already for Max Mugelli, Dylan Medler, and for Quinn Wittlisbach. That means for us it becomes altogether even more exciting, because when you think you can write the story about Ferrari Challenge, then you have to get the Tipex out and change how you think it's going to go. Isn't that the case, Nico?
Well, generally it is, and we just saw proof of that in the earlier race earlier this afternoon in the Coppa Shell Am, where everything went one way until it went exactly the opposite way within the matter of a few turns, and you never count that out also in Trofeo Pirelli. Felix Hörsiger will feel all right in his lead, but he's got Yassin Ferrati, and he will certainly challenge him. And for Marco Zanassi, obviously, Misano was such a non-stop celebration. Hockenheim turns out to be very different.
But here too it was, up until this race started, because he'd put it on pole position. I honestly, and I am the first to admit my errors, of which there are a multitude. In fact, you could publish an encyclopedia. But I did not see why Marco dropped down the order as in such a dramatic fashion. And I just wonder whether it was because of some failure rather than him getting hit or anything. I don't know. I really don't know. But he dropped way, way down the order, and I didn't see any evidence of any contact.
Yeah, no, we have no indication of that, and certainly we will find out after the race when we talk to him and possibly other drivers. But yeah, sometimes, you know, just you have the run of the green.
It would be great, wouldn't it, if Ludovica could go into the Zanassi garage, and if anyone would speak. I'm not suggesting Marco would necessarily. I think he might be a bit cross. But, you know, it'd be just interesting to find out what happened. Because, you know, leading the Drivers' Championship, coming here, putting it on pole position, and then the race going south for him was not how he anticipated this afternoon would go. Of course, what it's done is played into the hands of Hendrik Viol, who remarkably, Nico, going into this race, if memory serves me, and that fails miserably at times as well, something like P4 in the Drivers' Championship. And Hendrik Viol, of course, was certainly in the championship chase right up until the final event last season, with that fantastic battle with Klaus Sebranson. Safety car is coming in at the end of this lap.
The drama builds up again. We've got 13.5 minutes plus that one lap. It's probably going to be 12 and something plus that lap when we get back to green flag conditions. We still have about 17 cars running in this race, so it's going to be tense, it's going to be tight, it's going to be very, very exciting for us.
You're right, it is. It's going to be a dash for cash, because it's going to become all of a sudden a sprint race with a capital SPRA, I would say, because there's going to be relatively a few minutes left of racing. So Felix Herziger, Yassin Ferrati, P1, P2, Enzo Trulli. This is going to be, I mean, it could be a debut of distinction for Enzo Trulli, couldn't it? In the Ferrari Challenge, if he was able to usurp the 2 cars ahead of him. It's possible. Look at them. I tell you what, Felix Herziger could not back them up and stack them up any more than he is. And now he goes for it. He gets the jump on Yassin Ferrati. I have to say, I think Enzo Trulli probably anticipated that restart better than anybody else, other than the man that actually did it, of course, which was Felix Herziger. Let's go racing once again. 12.25 minutes plus 1 lap remaining. Ferrari Challenge, Trofeo Pirelli and Trofeo Pirelli Am. So Felix Herziger with everything seemingly under control. And there you can see the number 34 car of the Radici Automobili Zanassi Racing. Enzo Trulli, car number 23, under investigation, I am being told. That's David Akabadze for rejoining unsafely in turn 8, but that's not absolutely critical because he's further down the order as Enzo Trulli then and Gilles Redmans are going to try and trade places here. And also wanting to buy into that is Vincenzo Scarpetta too. That, of course, all plays into the hands of Yassin Ferrati and Felix Herziger, who, of course, are not going to have to worry too much about the rearview mirrors and what's going on behind them. So Felix Herziger has managed to build up a margin of about 8 tenths between himself and Yassin Ferrati. And then it is Enzo Trulli, Gilles Redman and Vincenzo Scarpetta. Hendrik Viol, the best of the AM drivers, is ahead of Herbert Geis and Hanno Laskowski. So it's as we were.
Yeah, it's as we were, but the battles are only developing now as everybody has regrouped following the restart. The tires now up to temperatures, the brakes up to temperatures, the drivers back into rhythm, and where Felix Herziger really, as you said, got a really good jump at the restart. Now it's going to be Yassin Ferrati who will try to claw that back.
It certainly stacked them up, hadn't he? I mean, they were backed up like products for sale in a jumble sale, and they were absolutely, I mean, he'd done that perfectly. Right, Felix Herziger, Yassin Ferrati, Enzo Trulli and Hendrik Viol has got the comfort cushion, if you like, of Henri Acide between himself and Herbert Geis. And here comes Henri Acide taking a look at Hendrik Viol. Now, in many regards, as that looked like Andrew Morrow getting past Hanno Laskowski. Now, I think that's a sensible move. Potentially, there's Herbert Geis losing out to Hanno Laskowski. It was Andrew Morrow actually getting by maybe Danilo Del Favaro. But all of a sudden it's changed for Herbert Geis, Nico.
Yeah, lots of things going on there with lots of overtaking back and forth, and now almost 4 wide into the hairpin.
And Andrew Morrow then on the inside of that as he goes through, the Northern Ireland racer, former Ferrari Challenge UK champion. Also in the mix there, I believe, is the car of David Gosner. Now, car number 23 is getting a time penalty of 10 seconds for rejoining unsafely. And that's David Akabadze, isn't it? And David Akabadze is right in that mix.
Yeah, he's running in P5 in class, which is really, really good and respectable. Now, that penalty obviously puts a dent into that ambition. But, yeah, lots of cars in very, very limited space. That can sometimes go awry. And it almost did there. As David Gosner is defending from Danilo Del Favaro, which will, in effect, become the battle for P6 in class.
Yes, you're absolutely right. Now, Andrew Morrow, who's running P4, Nico, for Trofeo Pirelli Am, will sense the opportunity that he's got 9 minutes plus 1 lap to get a podium out of this race, and he would dearly love to do that. Herbert Geis is ahead of him. Herbert Geis is no easy driver to get by, that's for sure. He, of course, driving that pastel blue 296 Challenge car, if I can be so bold. What's bold about it? Nothing, because it's a lovely light blue colour.
Absolutely. The advantage that Andrew Morrow has that he has no track limit infractions against his name, whereas the drivers in front of him, Herbert Geis and Hanno Laskowski, both have 2 of those, so they have to be more careful, and Andrew may have the opportunity to just push a little bit more and be more aggressive.
Make a mistake, yes. I like what you're thinking. Yes, although... Oh, no, that's Armin Arifpour, Nico. In the number 88 car, I believe, the Riller and Schnaut driver. And where that car is, it's a safety car, which by my reckoning will be the 3rd one of this Trofeo Pirelli and Trofeo Pirelli Am race.
Oh, what a pity. I mean, this race, it offers so much when we are racing, but it offers so much safety car. That's a pity. And obviously for everybody who was trying to move up the order, that means the next few minutes of that race will effectively count for naught, and the clock just ticks down without offering any opportunity to do something about their position.
I had the audacity earlier to say, as the last safety car came in, which was but a few seconds ago, that the remainder of the race will be something of a dash for cash. Probably used that a bit early, didn't I? Because I think this could be, you know, what have we got? 7.5 minutes plus 1 lap remaining. And in fairness, the car of that's beached of Armin Arifpour is properly beached, Nico. That was up to its axle hubs in gravel. That is not going to be quite so easy to recover.
No, saving grace the track crew here has been very, very quick in recovering cars that were stuck.
German, very efficient.
Well, sometimes. But definitely here they definitely have been quick in recovering the car, so I'm sure we will go back to racing. I guess it's going to be more than a lap. But it's going to be a few minutes until we can go back enjoying race action.
I was going to say, let's take a look at the progress chart on the left-hand side of the screen, and just as I said that, it disappears. Isn't that my luck? I mean, it was there, and now it's not. There are a number of drivers that have done very, very well. Felix Herziger, Yasin Ferrari and Enzo Trulli are doing very well. They're the top three in the Pirelli drivers. For the AM drivers, it's Hendrik Viol ahead of Hanno Luskowski and Herbert Geis. Herbert Geis being chased down by Andrew Morrow. Herbert Geis is... well, certainly, there you can see Armin Arifpour walking away from the car, and he's perfectly okay, which is really, really good to see. Herbert Geis has been on the podium once this season, if memory serves me correctly, Nico, and I think it came in the second race in Misano. Make that 2 podiums, because, of course, he took one in Monza as well. So 2 P3 places, I think, for Herbert Geis. Oh, no! Talk about commentator's curse. I said this could be a good opportunity for Andrew Morrow, the Charles Hurst driver, driving the RPM car that you can see there, is parked up, Nico.
There was no indication of that happening. That really caught us all by surprise, and well, maybe we will get a replay of what happened there, or because it obviously can't be a racing incident, so something must have let go, and there was lots of drama already, so you never can rule out some touch early in the race that felt inauspicious initially, but
yes, sometimes with, you know, as you say, a touch that looks innocuous and you don't think it's going to really affect you. Sometimes it does a few laps later on, and it's not to say that that's not what has happened there, but doubtless we will find out. But yeah, I mean, just when you think there can't be much more drama in this race, there jolly well is. And we are now into 4 3/4 minutes plus 1 lap, with no indications yet that the safety car is certainly going to do at least one more lap, Nico, which is going to take 1.5 minutes, if not 2 minutes, before it gets round again. Well, it's going to be 2 minutes, isn't it? That would give us 2 minutes plus 1 lap. I mean, we're going to end up with 2 or 3 racing laps, are we, before the checkered flag?
Yeah, something like that. However, we heard that in the earlier race, where we saw the advice given from driver coaches to the drivers.
This is Yasin Ferrari.
And this is probably where Andrew Morrow parks the car. Just go straight. Just go straight there.
Yeah, I don't think there's any other touch, is there?
He must have felt that there was something wrong with the car, that if he continued, he'd probably make it worse.
Thank you to Franco and our team in the OB truck. Safety car is going to come in at the end of this lap. So we ascertain what went wrong with Andrew Morrow, and basically he indicated left, didn't he? And he pulled it to safety. Okay, so stand by then, Felix Herziger. Now, if he could do what he did last time around, it was textbook in my opinion. Though my opinion is worth very little, but he did a good job.
Yeah, he did a good job. Probably he can't do exactly the same again, because that might be the most expected, or is the most unexpected.
Yeah, but that is the trouble, you know, you can double bluff, can't you? There's no way of knowing. In the meantime, I think Hanno Luskowski is going to think, do you know what? I could have a win here. Is right on the gearbox of Hendrik Viol right now. And Felix Herziger. I mean, safety car is already in the pit lane. And there you can see, I mean, he does a good job of stacking them up, Nico.
Yeah, can he take 2 minutes 40 seconds until the checkered flag to finish the race? No, he'd still have one more lap. No, he can't, obviously. And but you know, it is very treacherous for those behind him. They want to anticipate, but if they anticipate too early,
you're going to smack into the back of who's in front of you.
Yeah.
And of course, Felix, once he accelerates, he's got to stay accelerated. He can't go. He's off go. And I mean, he's leaving it late. And that is as damn near exactly where he did it last time around, Nico.
Yeah, double bluff for Felix Herziger. Pays off. Good restart. I think very, very close, everybody in the AMs. Hendrik Viol and Hanno Laskowski very, very close. But Felix Herziger up the road.
Yes, so Yasin Ferrari was unable to anticipate that any better than he did last time around. But here we go, through turn number 1 again for about the, I don't know how many time of asking after a safety car. And Felix Herziger leading. Hendrik Viol has been able to break away a little bit from Hanno Laskowski in terms of our AM drivers. 1 3/4 minutes plus 1 lap of racing. Here is the progress chart. Up 4 places, Hendrik Viol. Up 6 places for Hanno Laskowski. Up 7 for David Gosner. I mean, a lot of drivers have made a lot of progress now. Of course, part of that is by dint of the fact that they've had other drivers fall by the wayside, as Gilles Redmans and Vincenzo Scarpetta are still fighting tooth and nail over those positions. There's Yasin Ferrari. And look at this, Nico. This is the battle that's going on for P4 and P5 between Gilles Redmans and Vincenzo Scarpetta. There's nothing between the two of them, proving the point that you can overtake in so many different places here at the Hockenheim. As now, Hendrik Viol has got by Henri Acide again. And the big loser there is the number 77 car, in my opinion, of Gilles Redmans, who's dropping down the order right now. That was some side-by-side brilliant race initially. Hanno Laskowski looking at Hendrik Viol, Nico. I said Hanno Laskowski would fancy his chances here. There was just a little love tap, I think, between the two of them. A time penalty for car number 23 of 5 seconds. I think that was awarded earlier on. Let's stay with this AM battle, though, because that's getting terribly exciting. We're going to have the remainder of this lap plus 1 more, just by dint of when the cars cross the timing line. Here comes David Akabadze on Herbert Guys. David Akabadze, it's kind of academic, really, because he's got that time penalty to come. We can see Hendrik Viol's partner as we split the screen here. If you think we're emotional in our broadcast studio, it's nothing to the emotions that are being felt in terms of the Scuderia Prague garage. There's David Gosner. What a drive from David Gosner as well. Which way is this going to go, Nico? I'll allow you to predict.
No chance. This is too much happening here to have any sort of prediction. It's going to be very exciting to the checkered flag. I predict that much. And there is Hanno Laskowski, who runs wide. And
come on! And Herbert Guys and Hanno Laskowski go side by side right now. And Herbert Guys goes through. Hanno Laskowski, of course, was trying desperately, and now he's going to try and get to the inside of Herbert Guys, but he wasn't quite able to do that. Hendrik Viol is able to rub his hands with invisible soap. He's up the road. David Akabadze goes for a Burton. David Gosner collects his rearview mirror as he goes through as well. So much going on. Big beneficiary. He's Hendrik Viol, Nico.
Yeah, just as we predicted.
Hanno Laskowski all over the back of Herbert Guys now. We're about to start what will be the final lap of this Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli and Pirelli AM race here at Hockenheim. In replay, can't go through it all again. David Akabadze loses the back end of the car. David Gosner does not give him any assist whatsoever. He just tries to take avoiding action, loses his rearview mirror, which goes for Burton at the same time. Here we go then, final lap. I just don't know how to predict this in terms of where the places are going to be, certainly for P2 and P3 for our AM drivers. Felix Herziger, Yasin Ferrari, Enzo Trulli, then the top 3 for Pirelli, but we stay with this Pirelli AM battle for the final podium places because it is, well, it's beyond compelling, truthfully. Hendrik Viol is up the road. Here comes Hanno Laskowski. He's going to do everything he can. We've got a double yellow at turn 11. So the drivers are going to have to ease off there. And Hanno Laskowski then, if he was any closer to the back end of Herbert Guys, it'd be welded. And you can see right behind Hanno Laskowski is somebody flashing their lights furiously. It's Gilles Renman, which is completely academic because he's in a different category. And so that will be count as naught for Hanno Laskowski. You could just see the David Akabadze stricken car as the flip-flop camera reveals just how quick our Ferrari Challenge cars are. So it's going to be Felix Herziger then, the Ineco Reparto Corsa Ram team, surely through the double apex south curve, heads towards the checkered flag. We'll see the checkered flag unfurled for him as he takes the win ahead of Yassin Ferrati, and Enzo Trilli on his debut in the Ferrari Challenge takes a podium. Then it is Hendrik Viol for the AM drivers ahead of Herbert Guys, Hanno Laskowski. Wow, when a race is so punctuated by safety cars and you think it's going to be something of a damp squib, it was far from that.
No, absolutely. Every second that was under green flag condition was compelling.
There weren't many, but...
well, there were enough to deliver plenty of drama. I mean, we lost 8 cars in this race. But those who finished the race really gave us a show. And Felix Herziger, again with the win. We get a late penalty for David Gostner. Doesn't upset the podium positions. Henrik Viol takes the podium, or takes the win in the AMS, which will give him, by my reckoning, potentially the championship lead. And remember, the next round we will be at, we have another race tomorrow, but the next one after that is his home track, his home race in Brno. Wouldn't he like that?
Well, there is Felix's partner. What a great job he's done. And what a result it is, Nico. That's 3 wins in a row for Felix Herziger for that team. I mean, he's having a great time of it. What a racing driver.
Yeah, absolutely. He's really found his footing here in the challenge. And he's really making his mark. I mean, Yassin Ferrati, credit to him, and so Enzo Trulli for being on the podium. And likewise in the AMS, Hendrik Viol, Herbert Guys, and Hanno Laskowski. I mean, that was back and forth and back and all over again.
That was that big cameo song from 1988, back and forth, and that's exactly what happened, isn't it? There, Felix Herziger then, with his thumb out of the out of the window, well, his whole arm, including his thumb, of course. Wow, what a race. Confirmation of the classification, Felix Herziger taking P1, Yassin Ferrati P2, and Enzo Trulli P3. Then it was Vincenzo Scarpetta and Henri Assid. Those, of course, the Trofeo Pirelli drivers. Best of the AM drivers, Hendrik Viol, Herbert Guys, and Hanno Laskowski. Then it was Gilles Renman, Matt Rosner, Otto Blank, Rafael Duran, Danilo Del Favero, David Gostner, and David Akobadze. Then we lost the likes of Andrew Morrow, Armin Arifpour, Marco Zanassi, Mikkel Verhagen, Max Mugelli, Dylan Medler, and Quinn Wittlisbach. And relax. There is Felix Herziger coming down the pit lane now to the applause and to the adulation of his team, who will be thrilled to bits in terms of what he has done. Great job done indeed. And there they go to congratulate him out the car, which is not... you've done a very good job. That's what I heard, Nico. That's what they said. And now the emotions. Super job. Try and listen in to what's being said down there sometimes, because it is quite interesting. Not always that we get to be able to hear, but just on occasions we can, and it's good to hear it. Well done to Hendrik Viol. Had to keep his wits about him, I would have suggested. And there, all the cars then, the top 3 from each of the categories, Pirelli and Pirelli AM drivers.
quite an eclectic mix of liveries, drivers, driving styles, all very successful in this race, none more than Felix Herziger.
Yes, whom of course we will be hearing from in due course. I hope also we will hear from Hendrik Viol too. Felix Herziger, 3 out of 3, Nico, last 3 races. Very, very good job done by Felix Herziger, an absolute star. So, yes, he will be approached by Ludovica, who will discover everything she can about the success of today's driver, Felix Herziger.
Felix, congratulations. It was not a simple race with 3 safety cars. So I want to discover with you your feeling to be here and how do you manage your performance?
I'm very, very happy to be here. I was very nervous before the race because I have a lot of supporters here for the first time. It's incredible. Also from America, my father's sister Madeleine. Thank you. And yeah, it's been very difficult to keep the pressures at the level that we wanted to. And but at the end, I managed it quite well. Had a very cool restart all the time, so wasn't able to trick him a little bit often, and that kept me going. And the pace was amazing. The car is just perfect. The team, Ram is, I don't know. They make it easy for me, so I just try to do my best, and the rest is now seeable.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Well, I was, and so were you, Nico. We were correct in that he was tricking Yasin Ferrari over that safety car. It was a double bluff, wasn't it? Particularly the third one, I think it was.
Well, we got something right. Unfortunately, we can't race the Ferrari Challenge car to that speed, or we would have been very good at the restart.
Right. Hendrik Viol did a very good job in our Trofeo Pirelli AM class. He of the beautiful car number 92. And of course, as Nico said, it will be his home race at our next event. Let's hear from him now and find out what Ludovica can get from Hendrik Viol.
Hendrik, congratulations. You started this weekend in the best way, especially with the race 1 that ended with a sprint race. How do you feel?
Amazing, very grateful, great team. It was an eventful race with all the safety cars, so actually it was more difficult than, let's say, a straight race to keep the tires in the brakes and the temperature and to keep them working and to keep the car going. I struggled a bit after this, the last safety car, so it was a bit tense, but luckily we made it. It's everything nice.
Thank you for your time and congratulations again.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Bye.
Ferrari Challenge, Trofeo Pirelli and Pirelli AM. 5 minutes away from the start of the race, and the tension was palpable. As the cars headed towards the lighting gantry and got underway, then it was Henri Assis that almost found the grass and controlled it beautifully. However, it wasn't going to be good control for the likes of Max Mugelli, Dylan Medler and Quinn Veitlersbach, all of them finding the exit of turn 1 regrettably, and that would bring out the safety car straight away right at the start of the race, and Marco Zanassi having something of a moment, and he of course that was leading in the Pirelli AM Championship going into this race. He'd put it on pole position, but it all went horribly south right at the start of the race for him. That brought out another safety car. So, as we rode on board there, that was what it was like, and that was what it was like for Armin Arifpour, who found himself in the gravel, which would bring out yet another safety car. So, Andrew Morrow was another driver. Regrettably, the Gremlins, for whatever reason, meaning that the race was done for the number 4 car, all of which culminated in the fact that it would be an extraordinary sprint right at the end of the race duration period. And who would be successful? Well, of course, a number of drivers trying to have a go, including Herbert Geis and Hanno Laskowski and David Akabadze and David Gosner then going out into the runoff area. It would be Felix Herziger that would eventually win for the Pirelli drivers, and then for the Pirelli AM drivers it would be the Scuderia Prague racing driver Hendrik Viol that would be victorious. So delight for his partner. She was able to speak to Hendrik on the team radio, and Felix Herziger was congratulated as well. There we have it then, the emotions of Ferrari Challenge, Trofeo Pirelli and Pirelli AM racing. In the Drivers' Championship, Yasin Ferrari ahead of Felix Herziger by the narrowest of margins, just 1 point. Vincenzo Scarpetta moves up one place ahead of Quinn Wittlisbach, Gilles Renman, Björn Grossman, who's not racing this weekend, nor Luigi Coluccio, and then Max Mugelli. And they're ahead of Dylan Medler, who's having a torrid time over Enzo Trulli on his debut, and then Henri Acide. We will, of course, bring you the Pirelli AM Drivers' Championship as well. Nico has been furiously working away on the calculator and believes that Hendrik Viol might now have overtaken Marco Zanazzi in terms of the Drivers' Championship for the AM drivers. So up next, we will be heading to the podium and the delightful tones of Michele Mambelli.
The podium. Third on the podium, Enzo Trulli.
Enzo Trulli then makes it to P3. Here comes Yasin Ferrati, then P2.
And the winner is Felix Herziger.
Felix Herziger then on the top step of the podium. 3 out of 3, the last 3 races. What a star you are. And of course, the Reparto Corsa Ram Ineco team there as well. National anthem time.
Our claps for this podium, and the trophy are presented by Davide Rigon, Ferrari.
Davide Rigon, Ferrari factory driver, is here to make the trophy presentations. And first of all, of course, to Enzo Trulli.
Davide Rigon presents the trophy for the second driver on the podium.
To P2, of course, it's Yasin Ferrati.
And the trophy for the winner.
And then Felix Herziger on the top step of the podium.
Winner of race 1, Pirelli main class.
Well done.
Davide, the trophy for Davide Rigon, the trophy for the team manager. Davide, trophy for team manager.
And so Enzo Trulli then on his debut in the Ferrari Challenge is sort of emulating his father here at Hockenheim, because he did pretty well, didn't he, Nico?
Yeah, he got in German Formula 3, won on his premiere in Hockenheim, got his first 2 wins in Formula 3, and actually got his first Formula 1 podium here in Hockenheim, as well, a P3 as well. So just some history repeating.
Lucio Vigani making the Pirelli presentation, of course, to Felix Herziger. Pirelli then, another coveted trophy that's awarded to the best Pirelli drivers, and well done. And there, Davide Rigon and Lucio Vigani. Who's going to be first for the champagne race? Stand by, it's going to be our race winner, Felix Herziger. Closely followed by Enzo Trulli. Yasin Ferrati was caught wanting when it came to the explosion of the champagne, as it were. So the top 3 drivers, their cars, the Radici Automobili, Sanassi Racing for Enzo Trulli, for Emil Frey Racing for Yasin Ferrati, and then for the Ineco Reparto Corsa Ram is Felix Herziger. And in the race statistics then, best progress, well done, Rafael Duran. Moved up 10 places, great to see. Total overtakes in Pirelli AM, 15. 3 in Pirelli. Fastest laps came from Felix Herziger and Hendrik Viol. Both, of course, race winners, so hardly surprising that they took the fastest laps also. We have another podium to come, and that will be for our AM drivers. We'll be seeing Hanno Laskowski, Herbert Geiss, and Hendrik Viol on that podium. Michele Mambelli, once again, will be bringing the drivers out onto the podium on our behalf. And cue Michele. Here he comes.
On the podium, Hanno Laskowski.
Here comes Hanno then. He's a big fella.
Second place on the podium, Herbert Geiss.
Herbert Geiss then. He takes P2.
And the winner is Hendrik Viol.
And Hendrik Viol on the top step of the podium.
Team manager, Scuderia Praha.
And there's Hendrik's partner, And Scuderia Prague rightly taking their place on the podium as well. The shortened version of the national anthem. Davide Rigon once again will make the trophy presentations. First of all to Hanno Laskowski.
Davide Rigon, the trophy for the second place.
And then, of course, it will be Herbert Guys. His best finish so far this season. He's had 2 P3s, now he takes a P2. That means there's one missing. It's the top step of the podium, Nico.
Yeah, I'm sure he wouldn't
Could
disagree.
that come tomorrow?
For the winner,
Hendrik Viol. He, of course, takes P1. Championship chase is on. Did you do the calculations?
Yes.
And he's number 1.
We will find out with the graphics.
Rotten devil.
The answer is yes.
Okay. And the team, of course, receiving the Copa Teams trophy as well. And here comes Lucio Vergani for Pirelli to make the trophy presentation to Hendrik Viol. He gets the Pirelli trophy as well.
Okay, Lucio, Davide.
Everyone gets together for the photographs. And then my prediction is Laskowski's going to win the champagne race. There you go. Been wrong with just about everything today. Why should it be any different for the champagne race? Let's see.
Okay, now champagne.
I think you're right. I think you're right.
That was close, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think you're right.
Well, really enjoyable. The cars that delivered the drivers their silverware. Hanno Laskowski, P3. Herbert Guys, of course, taking P2. For Maranello Motors Pro Racing. And then for Scuderia Prague, it's Hendrik Viol. We'll take a look at the Trofeo Pirelli AM Championship chase and find out if Nico's calculations are correct. He's German, so they will be. Hendrik Viol is leading the Drivers' Championship ahead of Marco Zanassi and Michael Verhagen. Andrew Morrow, P4, then it's Herbert Guys, Hanno Laskowski, Francesco Galli and Henri Aside, who of course has been moved to the Pirelli Championship now, ahead of Otto Blank, Matt Rossner, Rafael Duran, Danilo Del Favro, NM, Gianmarco Marzioletti and James Owen. And there we have it. As we take a look at the paddock here at Hockenheim, we bid you farewell from our commentary studio from Nico and Dave on the afternoon rave. Thank you for watching the Trofeo Pirelli and Pirelli AM race. We do still have another race to come, and that will be the Copa Shell race this afternoon, but more from Trofeo Pirelli drivers tomorrow. Thank you for watching. Goodbye. Hello everyone, welcome to Hockenheim and Ferrari Challenge. It is round 3 of our 2025 season. As here we come to Germany, having been to 2 Italian tracks up until now. Here we are in Germany and we have a Copa Shell race to come. And may I formally welcome you to Hockenheim, legendary circuit here. And there is the formal welcome. And there is the circuit in all its glory. 4.574 kilometers. And here is the calendar for 2025. From here we head to the Czech Republic in Brno. Then it is to Valencia and Barcelona. Spa-Francorchamps, then Mugello to round the season out. Kind of mid to end of October. And a lot of racing to come, clearly, before we get there. And as you can see, the track temperature is 37 degrees. The air temperature is now a very pleasant 19 degrees. The weather forecast, I'm given to understand, might be altogether different for tomorrow. My meteorologist will confirm or deny there could be some wet stuff tomorrow.
Yeah. Prediction here in Hockenheim. Good afternoon, everybody. The prediction is that it's going to be pretty much wet all day with not torrential rainfall, potentially, but certainly not too much dry running to be had tomorrow. So enjoy the sun while it's there. It's going to be all different tomorrow.
Okay, so the next race in prospect then is for our shell drivers. Now there you can see Giacomo Altoe. And what we did find out at lunchtime is that Giacomo Altoe is also acting as driver coach to Ernst Kirchmeier, who is back on the grid again in Ferrari Challenge, and great to see him here. Did a brilliant job in qualifying, put it on pole position. And then you can see the 187 car right now of NM with Pino Frascaro offering best wishes ahead of the race. Pino Frascaro, of course, a Shell Am driver who we saw racing earlier on. He had a reasonable result, did Pino, in the race, to be honest with you. There you can see, having put it on P2 is Manuel Agostina, or you could. One driver out of position is to the right-hand side of your screen right now, John Dillon, in my opinion. He will potentially be doing some overtaking from his lowly P6 starting position. And there is Zois Grimpias, who goes from P3 on the grid. He was something of a discovery last year. Made his debut in Ferrari Challenge Racing, won the Shell Am Championship, and has been elevated to Shell drivers for this year, quite rightly. So we'll see what he can do from there, but I would suggest Zois Grimpias potentially a danger man. And Manu Gosner then, who is going from P2 on the grid. It's a front row start for Manuel Gosner. There the pale blue, white, pink and yellow colours of the Manuel Gosner car. Now, of course, prior to coming here in Germany at Hockenheim, we had 2 fantastic races. And they were on the Misano Adriatic, or the Adriatic coast, if you will, at Misano. Let's take a look at the highlights from those races. So the two races from Misano, and whoever was responsible for mixing the audio on those music tracks, what a brilliant blend between race 1 and race 2. I suspect it was Claudio. Well done, friend. Right, there we can see von Skeltemar in the 177 car with the shark's teeth up front, the crash helmet, the overalls, the luggage, the front of the car. I mean, one of the most photographed Ferrari Challenge cars over a huge history of Ferrari Challenge racing.
Yeah, we're not going to mention the number of years, but it's been a few.
It's been a few. You're absolutely right. And the Richard Mille safety car then that will lead the cars away on their formation lap. It's always a rolling start in the Ferrari Challenge, and yes, the cars will be on their way very, very soon. A good number of people here at Hockenheim to enjoy the race action to come from the Ferrari Challenge, and the Shell drivers who are about to contest their 30 minutes plus 1 lap here of this 4.574 kilometer circuit at Hockenheim. 16 turns, if you will, and they will explore each and every one of them. Have no doubt. And there is the car of Oskar Rinčević. We're 3 minutes away from the start of the race. 3 minutes away from the start of the race. Then the tyre trolleys are being hauled off the track as we speak. Exit left, if you will. Indicator on. Off they go. And only the final engineer left alongside the cars. And of course, as is traditional with the Ferrari Challenge, we will also hear from our pole sitter ahead of the start of the race. And on this occasion, it's going to be Ernst Kirchmayr, who will be leading Manuela Gosner and Zoe Skrimpias, I would suggest. We'll hear from Ernst Kirchmayr in any event, and he's raced in an awful lot of the regions of the Ferrari Challenge, but he's back in Europe to contest this race here at Hockenheim this afternoon.
It's a big pleasure for me to come back to Ferrari Challenge, and Hockenheim is a very famous racetrack, so I'm sure I will enjoy it. The most important change for me was the new car. The new 296 last year is really a very, very fast racing car. To be successful, it's very, very important to have a good relationship and let's say professional work together with team and with the driver coach. Brings you up a lot, and I'm driving this year with Kessel Racing, and I have a fantastic driver coach, is Giacomo Altore. So I have to say I'm in the best hands, and if I'm not able to deliver it, it's up to me, not up to the team and not to the driver coach. So I don't have any excuse. And Ferrari is more or less a big family. And it's what I really like with Ferrari Challenge.
He is a super humble man, Mr. Ernst Kirchmayr, and he will be going from pole position. So there, the Hockenheim circuit unveiled for you in graphics. 16 or 17 turns, depending on how you count them. If it's down to me, it's 16 rather than 17, but that's just personal preference. Each and every one of them, though, this circuit is very, very challenging because it's a mix of high speed and also technical parts. As the cars are released on their formation lap, we will, of course, bring you the grid in full for our Shell drivers that will do battle over 30 minutes plus 1 lap here at Hockenheim. So cars make their way through turn 1 right now. We're on board with the Richard Mille safety car. Here comes the grid from back to front. It's Germano Salernitano and Michael Martin then, P12 and 11. 10 and 9, it's Corinna Gosner and Thomas Gosner. 8 and 7, Oskar Rinčević and von Skeltemar. Then as we're reaching the sharp end of the grid, it's John Dillon going from P6 and Cristiano Marchel from P5, NM P4 and Zois Skrimpias P3. And then it's Manuel Agosner and Ernst Kirchmeier going from pole position. So, as is tradition, we always hear from our pole-sitting driver, and on this occasion we heard from him just a few moments ago, but nonetheless we'll hear from him again. It is Ernst Kirchmeier.
Okay, the qualifying was really great for me, but the result is very, very close. So I think we have a good chance for the race, maybe to win, hopefully for the podium, but it will be a very hard race. And but I'm very happy to stay at pole because Hockenheim is more or less home racetrack for me. I'm coming from Austria, so we are the neighbor, and so I'm very happy about this.
Thank you, Ernst. I have to say, he is one of the more difficult drivers to get past if he's got his nose in front, and he, of course, has given himself the best possible opportunity to win the race by starting from P1. However, don't take anything away from the likes of Manuel Agosner, Zois Skrimpias, Cristiano Marchel, NM, and John Dillon, and von Skeltermaier, and Oscar Rinčević. In fact, just about every other driver, who are all capable of taking a win as well. So as the cars will grid up side-by-side formation, the Richard Mills safety car will peel off into the pit lane, and it will be the responsibility, therefore, of the front row to control the pace of the rolling start. Stand by. We have got our Ferrari Challenge Copa Shell race about to be unleashed here at Hockenheim. Ernst Kirchmeier, Manuel Agosner on the front row of the pack. 30 minutes plus 1 lap. So into the pit lane comes the safety car. We'll throw the lighting gantry to the top of the screen as if by magic. There it is. And looking very lively is Zois Skrimpias. Stand by. We're about to go racing. Lights out. Let's go. Cristiano Marchel and John Dillon both on their marks and going very, very well at the start of the race. Around has gone Ernst Kirchmeier. Good avoidance by John Dillon, I have to say. And a disaster right at the start of the race then. And doubtless we'll get a replay of that. It's NM that's leading from Manuel Agosner. And Oscar Rinčević, I think, is up to P3. And there is Thomas Agosner. So NM from Manuel Agosner, from Oscar Rinčević now. Trying to go around the outside here. It's a long way around. Manuel Agosner is going to have the gun seat here. She puts it into P2. In the meantime, NM, who's just really, really enjoying this, and it's all been handed really rather nicely on a plate right at the start of this race. We just await almost the inevitability of perhaps a cautionary period. It depends whether the Ernst Kirchmeier car and the car has been put into safety, because it was right at the start. There is John Dillon in the 151 car. That car to me looks ill handling. As out has gone Zois Skrimpias. He gets the car pointing back in the right direction once again. Well, that was a spin for Zois Skrimpias, so that's dropped him down the order, and somebody else has spun as well. That's NM from the lead of the race. So that will mean that the race will be being led right now by Manuel Agosner. Sure enough, there's Manuel Agosner. It's Oscar Rinčević, P2. Then it is Thomas Agosner. Cristiano Marchel will be running P4. Then it will be John Dillon and von Skeltermaier. Nico, make of that what you will.
Well, that was a scrappy first round, if there ever was one. Ernst Kirchmeier, we can say, is running, so he is not stationary. Whether he is quick enough or if the car has sustained damage that will limit his ability to be quick for the remainder of the race will remain to be seen, but he's not stationary and therefore no safety car was needed. But yeah, I mean, everything happened here, and it was everybody effectively on their own. I think Ernst Kirchmeier and Manuel Agosner, they had a little bit of a coming together, and I'm sure we will see that in replay.
Let's take a look at the race start then. John Dillon was early on. Cristiano Marchel was early on as well in terms of getting going here. So, as they headed in, to be fair, I think Ernst clattered into the side of Manuela on cold tyres. That sent the car around. A lot of drivers having to take avoiding action. I honestly, if I could call that, Nico, and I don't want to call that, I would say on cold tyres, Ernst's car going into turn number 1 probably understeered into Manuela Gosner.
Possibly, yeah. Difficult angle to judge, and certainly race control will have a look at that. It's always tight in the first corner. And then, obviously, it's always Scrimpius, who's been so good. Oh. Remember, he had his first experience in racing last season and took the Copper Shell Am Championship and has performed really well this season, but had a spin and then an Am from the lead of the race similarly. So everything really going the wrong way for all the race leaders, and now
Marcella's in strife, Nico. He's been passed by John Dillon, von Skeltmar and Corinna Gosner.
Yeah, things just keep happening.
So you can see Marchel there losing out to everybody, Nico. So a problem for Cristiano Marchel. So it's now Manuela Gosner, Oscar Rinčević, Thomas Gosner, John Dillon is P4, then it's von Skeltmar and Corinna Gosner. One way and another, this is going to be a party for the Gosners, isn't it? Because they are P1, P3 and P6 at the moment. The entire family celebrating. Only needs David, but he's in a different category and he was racing earlier on today.
Yeah, absolutely. If it stayed like that, and if there's one thing about this race, that it hasn't stayed the way it was, there is von Skeltmar and John Dillon. Fons with a good qualifying session, didn't get quite as good a position as he hoped, and he was occupying for some of the session, but he certainly looks like he's got pace here at Hockenheim, and he's putting the pressure on John Dillon.
I think I would agree with that. So, of course, he will have Corinna Gosner not so far behind as well. So Manuela Gosner with a very good margin over Oscar Rinčević in the lead of the race of some 2.9 seconds. Then it's Thomas Gosner P3 before we get to this battle, which is John Dillon, von Skeltmar and Corinna Gosner. There's Oscar Rinčević and there is Thomas Gosner. Double apex final turn here at Hockenheim. Accelerate now down the start-finish straight. And let's get a live gap then. Manuela Gosner, I think, has extended her margin to 3.1 seconds.
And Corinna Gosner really wide there on the exit of the final turn. Collected it, kept it well, but lost a little bit of time, and that means von Skeltmar can absolutely look forward. Doesn't have to look in his rearview mirrors at all and can focus on getting on terms with John Dillon.
Which John has broken away from Fons now and has gapped von Skeltmar a little bit. So, Oscar Rinčević up 6 places, Thomas Gosner up 6 places. You can see the progress chart on the left-hand side of your screen as to who has done what and where and when. And this in replay was NM going for a big power slide. And that's where he lost the lead of the race, Nico.
Yeah, absolutely. He's trying to recover, and he's running in P8, which is respectable after a spin, but certainly not where he was before. And there in the background is Scrimpius, who also had a spin. So both of them, by virtue of those coming in the early stages of the race, still with a chance for a good position.
And NM setting the fastest lap of the race right now, running in P8, as you quite correctly said. So let's see where NM can put himself. We're up to P7 now, having got by Mikael Martin. Next in his target sights will be Corinna Gosner. Manuela Gosner leading by 3.541 seconds over Oscar Rinčević and Thomas Gosner. Then it is John Dillon in the 151 car, and you can see all over the back of the car of Corinna Gosner is NM, and we'll see what NM is able to do and where the overtake potentially could come. And there are lots of places here at Hockenheim where overtakes are a possibility. Dillon and Skeltmar are gapped a little bit. NM just taking a look at the inside of the Corinna Gosner car there. And then as we get to the Parabolica now, going up towards the hairpin, it's where you have to be a bit decisive, dependent upon how close you're running to the car in front of you as to where you put it, whether you go inside, outside. to try and execute an overtake. With telemetry then, 280 kilometers per hour, as David Gostner, the only member of the Gostner family that isn't racing, but he is racing, but not in this category, and he sits in the garage as we split the shot there, and you can see him watching on as the family are performing pretty well, I would suggest, Nico.
Yeah, absolutely. And NM is trying to get on terms with Corinna Gostner, but thus far, Corinna has been steady in her defense and actually didn't have to take too much of a defensive stance yet.
No.
So NM is still held in bay, and Kirchmeier, just to give you an update on him, he has recovered his pace, just put in very, very good lap time, almost the best of the pack. So whatever was wrong with his car initially, it's handling all right apparently, but obviously his race in turn one very much suffered from that contact as Corinna Gostner holds on and keeps that 6th position.
It's a question of when, not if. I think NM tries a bold and ambitious move to get by Corinna Gostner. I think the pace is there, Nico, but as we've said on many occasions in the past, it's all very well being as quick as the car in front of you. You've got to find a way by as well, and that's not always quite so easy. So into turn one they go. My guess is going to be perhaps on the inside going into turn number 2. But he would have to be king of the late breakers. And sure enough, NM dives to the inside at turn 2. And contact is made. And that sends Corinna Gostner around. And that's just that's sad, really, because probably 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. Was Corinna Gostner aware of the fact that NM was going alongside? Maybe not. I'm sure race control will take a look at that to judge whether it was a racing incident or whether it could have been potentially avoided. It depends really how far alongside the NM car was at the apex of the turn, Nico.
Yeah, 100%. But again, more drama and more incident involving NM and our Shell drivers, Manuela Gostner. She's keeping out of everything here. 3.3 seconds to the good. Now, she has had a run of misfortune already this year. So if she can stay out of any battles and just drive that home, she will be very relieved and very happy, obviously, as a race winner. But one thing she doesn't need here is more drama.
No, and there's been a bit of it so far. Is it all over yet? I wouldn't necessarily have said so. But for the moment, Oscar Rinčević running P2, Thomas Gostner running P3. Then it is John Dillon and von Skeltermaier. I mean, they've each of the top 4 or 5 drivers, they've all got good pace, haven't they? And they're all able to gap each other reasonably well. The driver that's really, really got it together is NM. And sets the fastest lap, has set the fastest lap. You can see now as, really beginning to reel in von Skeltermaier like he's on the end of a fishing line, but he's got quite a deficit to make up before he can get on terms with the shark's teeth, if you will, of von Skeltermaier that is running P5 currently. Oscar Rinčević and Thomas Gostner, they're almost matched identically. I mean, on that occasion, Thomas Gostner was marginally quicker than Oscar Rinčević, but we are talking about margins, Nico.
Yeah, not a lot of happening there, and in actual fact, the gaps are fairly sizable. Zoe Skrimpias approaching Michael Martin, so something could happen there for the P7 and P8 positions. And as you said, NM is trying to reel in von Skeltermaier, but in fairness, that gap is currently not coming down. So right now, it's a little bit of a waiting game of where will something happen, and a lot of has already happened. It feels like a calm before the storm.
Glad you said that. Thomas Gostner in the 161 car then, currently running P3. Now, Thomas, actually unusually, Nico, has not had a podium so far this year. So, I guess I'm right in saying he's probably overdue one.
He would agree.
Yeah, I'm sure he would agree. So we'll see if he can do that with this race. What have we got? Just under 18 minutes plus 1 lap remaining in this Ferrari Challenge Copa Shell race. The wonderful one-make series that is the Ferrari Challenge that races not only here in Europe, but also in the UK, in Australasia, in Japan, and of course in North America as well. This weekend, of course, Challenge is racing in Autopolis in Japan. Just last weekend we were racing in Miami in North America and Alton Park in the UK. Such is the depth of one's knowledge about the Ferrari challenge. Helpful that I was there, I suppose. But you can see Oscar Rinčević and Thomas Gosner are both the drivers that have made up fantastic places now. 6 move upwards for both Oscar Rinčević and Thomas Gosner, running in P2 and P3. Up 6 places. Sound like a chart show host.
Up 6 places. Manuel Agosta is up into P1. We just saw Corinna Gosner, who's dropped a little bit after being overtaken by Anam. She's now down in P9, so she's struggling to keep up with the other drivers around her, but showing good pace nonetheless. Manuela Gosner's, her lead, which was once 3.5 seconds, is down to 1.6 seconds. She's already managing the gap. I rather think that would be way too early. So Oscar Rinčević, he is reeling in Manuela Gosner, and we could see something developing for the lead in but a few laps.
Oscar Rinčević, who made his debut in the Ferrari Challenge at Monza, then raced in the UK Challenge at Navarra, Nico, and is he bringing this gap down? There he is in the all-black number 121296 Challenge car. And you can see the lights being flashed there. That is a ploy and a tactic. Who's that on the left-hand side? Is that Cristiano Marchel? Slowed and slowed and slowed, Nico?
Yeah, that was the back marking car, and that is Cristiano Marcial, who's been in the meantime overtaken by Ernst Kirchmeier, who is still, he currently is the fastest on the track out there. Doesn't help him a lot, but at least he's found the pace again, which at least for tomorrow will give him some confidence.
Yes. So Oscar Rinčević P2. This is the P3 driver Thomas Gosner, and then it's John Dillon running in P4. So our race leader is Manuela Gosner, car number 193 then, who has had a podium this season, but hasn't had a win. Took a podium in the last race at Misano. Up until then, the results were very much un-Manuela Gosner-like.
Yeah, absolutely. Not only the results, but also the pace. Somehow she just didn't have it together, which was a total stark contrast to last year, where she was really, really strong and battling for the championship until almost the final round. So,
I agree with you.
She seems to have found something again with her team in the car to make it much more competitive. And talking about the team, engineered also by the Reparto Corsa Ram team, is Zoe Skrimpias. And he is now putting the pressure on Michael Martin. Hasn't figured yet. So this is for P7 and P8, but Zoe's, after that earlier spin, also is trying to move back up the order.
Yes, and try and make good where possible. 14.5 minutes plus 1 lap. Zoe Skrimpias breaks the timing beam and puts another lap in the book and chases down Michael Martin, who is P7 at the moment. NM is ahead of them, P6. The top 3, Gosner, Rinčević and Gosner. And Manuela has responded a bit to the pace of Rinčević and has increased the margin to 1.971 seconds between P1 and P2. Germana Toniella, partner to Zoe Skrimpias, looks on as Cristiano Marchel has to park the car for the FBO Motorsports team. So I regret to say that will be the end of the race for the 171 car driver combo. Zoe Skrimpias going into the hairpin. Goes to the inside of Michael Martin. The back end just sticks out a little bit. He controls it nicely with a tad of opposite lock, and he goes on his way, having moved up a further place. Make that P7 now for Zoe Skrimpias, Nico.
Yeah, well done. Now the gap to NM running in front of them is almost 4 seconds, so got to be a tough ask for the remaining 13 minutes or so. Is it impossible? Well, Zoe Skrimpias will certainly try. And actually a timing screen indicates that MM has dropped down the order behind the two of them, so let's see if there is another spin, and that explains it.
That's the reason why, Nico. Yeah, the back end of the car just letting go, and NM unable to control that, and just as you were pontificating, so we saw the evidence of why.
So, update, the gap is now 6 seconds to Fons Geltemar, and no, Fons, I'm not gonna jinx you, please. But there was the gap. Just in short, we just saw Fons go through, and there is Zoe Skrimpias. It's quite a large gap for 12.5 minutes remaining, but if this race has proven anything, that whatever is now might not be what's the situation in 2 minutes from now.
Expect the unexpected. Manuel Gosner, 1.299, ahead of Oscar Rinčević, P2, P3, Thomas Gosner. This is Zoe Skrimpias then, who now he's been released from the cork in the bottle, which was, to a degree, Michael Martin. Is now up the road like an injured hare, I would suggest, having gone around earlier on, which was the injury, but now he's got the pace back once again. And, 12 minutes plus a lap. Yeah, he can get on to Fons, I would suggest, although a time penalty is coming now for car number 187. It goes from bad to worse for NM, who's going to pick up a 10-second time penalty for causing a collision. So NM, who is running in P8, Nico, is going to be relatively P last, I would suggest, come the end of the race, because it's going to have a 10-second penalty. You'll see that on screen in a moment. We're able to give you advance notice of that because it pops up on our message screen first, but there it is.
And that will have been with the situation with Corinna Gosner, where she went around after that incident, and I think an understandable decision, if nothing else. 1.2 seconds between Manuela Gosner and Oscar Rinčević, and there is that battle between John Dillon and Fons Geltema. And obviously Fons would like to get ahead, but he can't be too much involved in a battle, otherwise he might avoid Zoe Skrimpias edging ever closer.
Yeah, the more these two fight, of course, inevitably it will slow them, and as you quite rightly say, that will perhaps potentially allow Zoe to get closer. I think John is just managing the gap pretty well. Benny, his driver coach, will be on the radio saying this is where you need to look. And one thing we do need to look at, and we're constantly minded of here at Hockenheim, is track limits, Nico. Is there any updates for us?
Yeah, and talking about what John Dillon has to be mindful of, it's track limits, because he's the first driver who has gotten his third warning. And remember, 3 is still okay, 4 is when 5-second penalty is awarded, so he's the first one who has to be really, really careful. And obviously the Kessel team will tell Fons Geltema that that's the situation. So if Fons can push John into a mistake, there would be overtake done without having actually to do it on the track.
Yes, you're absolutely right. Now, undoubtedly the team will be love that camera. The team will be making the drivers aware of this situation. You're right, and that John has got to be careful. Other drivers in strife when it comes to potential, as John has now picked up his 4th track limit warning, Nico. That means that effectively John will pick up a penalty. I'm almost sure of that. We'll see it shortly, I reckon, as it's just flashed up on our screen, the 4th time penalty, the 4th track limit excursion, which should mean that John will bank a time penalty, which will be bitter, but the rules are the rules, and everyone has to adopt the same. And there's a number of drivers on 2 track limit excursions, but John has certainly got the most of them. Just trying to think. Yes, we're seeing on our screen now, car 151 is picking up a time penalty of 5 seconds for track limits. So that's going to drop John down off of that P4 place, Nico. And John said to us as we came into our studio this afternoon that he needed to bank points this weekend, and it was points haul that was most important to him, and that's not helped his case.
No, it hasn't. It helped Zoe Skrimpias' case to a degree, because those 5 seconds means that he is now in striking distance, even though not physically on the track, and for that P5 position. So he will know that. He will push further. For Fons Geltema, I mean, he would still like to get past John and try to move up in striking distance with Thomas Gosner, but in fairness, there's 10 seconds between the two, so very, very unlikely that that would change.
Yeah.
Manu Gosner, she is, I think, managing the gap. 1.4 seconds to the good of Oscar Rinčević, and we're now at 8 minutes plus a lap. It's probably going to be 5-6 laps that we still have in this race.
Yeah. There's Oscar Rinčević then. And the gap between Manu and Oscar as they cross the timing line, 1.7 seconds. So Manuel are managing this really, really well. There's Thomas Gosner running in P3, so you can see that both John Dillon and NM are the 2 recipients of time penalties thus far. I say thus far. drivers are on that are on 2 track limits excursions, as David Gosner looks on, watching his father Thomas racing in 3rd place. Corinna Gosner with 2 track limits excursions is the only other one that's really potentially is in strife, maybe, if she makes another track limit excursion. We'll see. So the top 3 all very nearly in one shot then. There's 4.6 seconds between the top 3 of Manu Gosner, Oscar Rinčević and Thomas Gosner, the driver and car combo that we see centre screen right now, the 161 car. So Thomas Gosner's best result thus far in the season, the P4, which came in the first race at Misano. Oscar Rinčević had a torrid time of it at Monza. His best finish was P6 in the second race at Monza, and took a P11 in the second race in Misano. We're being told that Manuela has been told to just ease up in terms of braking. Giorgio Sonagiotto saying you're being too aggressive on your braking and just soften your braking up a bit. You know, that's why you have driver coaches, Nico, to advise on. I mean, they have lots and lots of data going back into their systems, and they're able to analyze so many different data points from the cars, and just being told that too aggressive, and maybe that could cause problems, because the gap is down to 1.2 seconds now between Manu and Oscar Rinčević.
Well, you would think that as a driver you say, well, what am I supposed to do? The driver behind me is 1.1 seconds off me.
Well,
so
it's a fair point you're making.
It's not easy. It's easier said than done, and well, but equally it is a fair point. You have to manage your car, you have to manage everything. But as a racing driver, you don't want to make yourself vulnerable by being too careful, I would suppose.
And the thing is that, you know, you would probably be very tempted, if it was me, short of temper and short of tolerance, I would say, will you come and have a go? Well, actually, Giorgio can do that, can't he? He's a very, very good racing driver, and most of these driver coaches are, Nico. They have been there, worn the T-shirt and washed it so many times they've thrown it away.
Yeah, well, but I mean, in a different perspective from our point of view, with 4 minutes and 40 seconds plus a lap remaining, that sets up a nice and juicy final, because Oscar Rinčević is reeling her in very, very small increments, but he is reeling her in. And if Manuela Gosner has any issues she has to manage, that will only increase the likeliness that those two might come into a battle.
It could be that it could be absolutely nothing to do with really what Manuela is doing. What Giorgio might be concerned with is overheating the brakes, which makes the brakes much less efficient, and therefore defending becomes much more difficult for her, as Oscar now gets within 9/10 of Manuela Gosner. We've got 4 minutes plus 1 lap. Nico, as we run the telemetry on the two drivers that are P1 and P2, this isn't necessarily all over yet.
Oh, no, it isn't. And if we've learned something in this race, then I don't know what we learned. There's lots of drama anyway, and Manuela Gosner will hope that there is no more coming her way, but the gap is down to less than 8/10. 3 minutes 30 seconds. That means probably 2 more laps plus 1, so 3 more after this one.
Okay, bring it on. So let's get a live gap on the left-hand side of your screen. You can see the graphics are ready to bring you the live gap, which is 7/10. Oscar is 100ths quicker. It is 100ths. You said it's small increments. It is small increments. But it's increments going in the right direction. But as we have said a million times, and I'm not exaggerating, in the past, it's all very well being quicker than the car in front of you. You've got to find a way by. We do know Manuela can defend well. We also know, if I'm honest with you, and Manuela would be the first to accept this, just on occasions, the pressure can get to her.
It's very rare, but it has happened, and I think especially this season where things have not gone her way, it kind of has to play in your mind at some point that you think, oh no, here we go again. But it's the sign of a champion, and she certainly is one, to resist that and to fend that off and keep cool, calm under pressure. And the remaining 3.5 minutes or so will show us not everything, but she will have the ability to prove that and just stay steadfast. And I think she's responded a little bit. It looks like she's increased that gap just by a few meters more. And all she needs is effectively to stay outside of the strike zone of Oscar, just not allow him to make a move.
Yes, so we're less than 2 minutes plus a lap. I think you're right. I think Manu, she took notice of Giorgio. She eased off in terms of the aggressive braking. I think right now, quietly, she said, to heck with that. I'm going to do whatever I need to do to stay ahead of the game here. And that's what she's doing. I think she is managing it, because the gap now is up to 9/10 between P1 and P2. So, you know, it's seesawing, but it's seesawing intense, Nico.
Yeah, absolutely. Look across the field as we focus rightly on our leaders. Thomas Gostner still in P3, John Dillon P4 on the track, but obviously has that penalty, which von Skeltema and then Zoe Scrimpias, both of them will be ahead of John after after you take the penalty into account. Michael Martin, NM with more penalties. This is how it stands at the moment. So 1 minute remaining. That will mean by the end of this lap, this will have elapsed, and there is one more.
Exactly right, exactly right. Well, it's now defensive driving. Oscar, of course, he's got absolutely nothing to lose. He can throw everything at this. Kitchen sink, shopping, you name it. Metaphorically, it can be all hurled out of the window, as he will go heck for leather and do anything he can to get on terms with Manu Gostner. But I think Manu is managing this really well, Nico.
Yeah, I think you're right. And it's very impressive how she managed that with all the intel and all the input and all the background. She is holding on to that P1 position, and it's for her, it's effectively checking off one turn at a time. And we're probably at less than 30 turns that she has to resist.
Yes.
The attempts from Oscar Rinčević, and the checkered flag is tantalizingly getting closer. But it's not here yet.
It's not here yet. You're absolutely right. And a lot can happen between now and that checker flag. And Zoe Scrimpias, if anyone is going to throw caution to the wind, I would suggest, in terms of trying to get by von Skeltema, it might be that driver.
Yeah, well, he has closed that gap. One said it was 6 seconds, and those 6 seconds, 5 of them have evaporated. Good driving, good showing from Zoe Scrimpias, who is already running effectively in P5, who would dearly like to make it P4.
Right, we start the final lap of this Ferrari Challenge Copa Shell race live from Hockenheim. Oscar Rinčević launches the car over the inner curbs at turn 1 in his quest to get on terms with Manuela Gostner. Manuela Gostner, who probably will be doing everything she can to avoid looking at the rear view screen inside the car and just focus on everything that she's got to do out front and up front. Oscar Rinčević is probably on the limit of the pace that he's got available to him. I think it's more likely that Zoe Scrimpias is going to have a go at von Skeltema. Fons is potentially the most experienced Ferrari Challenge driver in this race, I would say. He's raced for a lot of years. He knows how to defend his position. However, Zoe Scrimpias, in only his second year of racing, is definitely going to have a go. He looked at him initially at the inside. Fons blocked it, which is his right to do so. Zois has got to go around the outside. Of course, Fons get a better exit out of that turn. Zois now trying to go to the inside again. It is the inside of this turn, but it's the outside of the next one. So Fons gets sideways, loses the back end of the car a little bit. That plays into the hands of Zoe Scrimpias, who's inside now. There's contact between the two of them. Opposite lock is applied by von Skeltema to try and hold on. It's a bit scrappy, but Zois has gone through right at the front end. We have just 2 turns to do. Fair play to Manuela Gostner, who I think has done absolutely everything she can. Oscar Rinčević goes sideways in his quest, but Manuela Gostner wins the race ahead of Oscar Rinčević. And some distance down the road is going to be Thomas Gosner, who I think will take P3. Zoe Skrimpias is going to be ahead of von Skeltermar. And there's Zeus then again sideways through the Sud Curva, heads towards the checkered flag. And John Dillon, of course, dropping down some places because of a time penalty. But I have to say, a fair, fraught fight between Manuela Gosner and Oskar Rinčević, which actually never really came to anything, but respectful from both of them, Nico.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that was... I think for Manuela Gosner there will be joy, there will be a lot of relief.
Yes.
And it almost to the final turn looked like Oskar Rinčević was able to get on terms with her through a magic line, but then he made it by going a little bit sideways and therefore had to control that, and that was Manuela Gosner's win. I think Zoe Skrimpias, von Skeltermar, that's something that was very much on the limit. Was it over the limit? Only race control will have a meaningful opinion about that. Everybody will have one for sure. But it was fitting of this race. John Dillon beaten by Zoe Skrimpias by 4/100ths of a second after the application of the time penalty. That elevates Zeus into P4, John Dillon 5th, von Skeltermar 6th. That was a race, and then some.
Yes, and I'm tempted to say John Dillon beaten indeed by his own track limits. You know, that's what did for him, wasn't it really, Nico? And in the end, how many track limits? 6 excursions, you know. What a shame. What a shame. I have to say, the race has not ended.
No, and it well, actually, as we say that, Zoe Skrimpias, he is getting a 5-second penalty for, I believe, that incident with von Skeltermar. So stop the press. All notes that have been taken need to be erased. Not everybody, but Zoe Skrimpias with a 5-second penalty will actually drop down behind Michael Martin, and that will be P7, I suppose. So
here it is.
And I think that's
fair.
Yeah, it's fair. Certainly not malicious, but yeah, I think it's fair. Von Skeltermar was in a better position there, and Zeus came from a long way back. So it's Manuela Gosner, Oskar Rinčević, Thomas Gosner. Nothing changes there. John Dillon actually keeps his P4 place as a result of that penalty. Von Skeltermar, Michael Martin, Zoe Skrimpias finishes in P7. And there is David Gosner applauding his sister Manuela, who is off the schneid, if you will, has finished whatever cursed her for the beginning of this season, and that will give her a huge boost of confidence.
I agree, and I mean, she is a hugely, hugely emotional racer, Nico. And yeah, really, really likable driver. And well, just when we thought there couldn't be anything else in that race, because you announced it, come up with something else. I mean, amazing. Well, look at the congratulations. Here's confirmation of the revised result. It's Manuela Gosner from Oskar Rinčević and Thomas Gosner, then John Dillon P4, von Skeltermar P5, then Michael Martin, Zoe Skrimpias and NM in the end classifies P8. And then to the second page of our Copa Shell Race 1 classification, where we find Corinna Gosner P9, Ernst Kirchmeier classified P10, and then it was Germana Salernitano and Cristiano Marchel. Right, it's the Ineco Ripardo Corsa Ram team that have engineered the car of Manuela Gosner to the win. So we're standing by to hear from our race winner then, Manuela Gosner, whose emotions will have been calmed down sufficiently in order for her to be able to give us a fine interview as we stand by to hear from Manuela Gosner.
Wow, super Mario, congratulations for this big result. A very perfect start for you for this weekend after a thrilling start. So how do you feel to be here?
I'm so happy. This was so far not an easy season for me, but finally I'm on the highest step of the podium, so really proud of all of us, of my team, of myself, of everyone, and now really super happy and proud.
Thank you for your time and congratulations again.
Thank you, Ludovica. Ciao ragazzi.
Well done, Manuela. Ferrari Challenge, Copa Shell drivers ready to take to the track here at Hockenheim. Manuela Gosner then getting the better of Ernst Kirchmayr in the drag race to turn number 1. Well, as she turned in, Ernst Kirchmayr made contact and went round, and that would really end Ernst Kirchmayr's race. His driver coach, Giacomo Altoe, looking on in dismay, and Zoe Scrimpias, another driver, finding that the car pointing in the right direction is not the quickest way around the track, and NM was another one with a huge slide here. Manuela Gosner doing very well to avoid that. And in the lead of the race then, the 193 car, Manuela Gosner and NM fighting back with members of the same Gosner family, and this is Corinna Gosner, who found herself pointing in the wrong direction, and David Gosner, another member of the family, looked on, and there was a car going around again, as we saw drivers avoiding action. Now Fons Skeltermar and Zoe Scrimpias had a small coming together here. That would result in a post-race penalty for Zoe Scrimpias for being really rather too aggressive. Oskar Rinjovic did everything he could to try and take the win away, but he couldn't, as Manuela Gosner was victorious at Hockenheim in the Ferrari Challenge Copa Shell Race 1, winning ahead of Oskar Rinjovic and Thomas Gosner. We'll be heading up to the podium next. Michele Mambelli will be bringing the drivers out to celebrate, of course, on steps 1, 2 and 3 here at Hockenheim. And cue Michele. He's not ready yet. Can't
And
think.
now, guys, the podium, Shell, race 1, Hockenheim. The drivers on the podium. Third on the podium, Thomas Gosner. Second place, Oskar Rinjovic. And the winner is Manuela Gosner.
So Manuela heading to the top step of the podium then. And the team celebrating as well.
Anthem.
And here comes the anthem.
Our claps, and on the podium, team manager in Eco Reparto Corseram.
Who's it going to be from the team?
The trophy are presented by
Nico
Davide Rigon,
Reparto
Ferrari
Corseram.
factory driver for the third driver on the podium.
Ferrari factory driver
Thomas
Davide
Gosner.
Rigon making the trophy presentation to Thomas Gosner.
The
I think his
trophy
first
for
podium
the
of the
second
season.
driver. Second place for
Oskar Rinjovic will be in receipt of P2 trophy. Well done, Oskar. He's great fun.
Davide Rigon.
And then Manuela Gosner. She's had a podium, but now she gets her first win of the season. Have a feeling that it won't be the last.
And the trophy for team.
And of course, Copa Team will be in receipt of the trophy as well. Such is the generosity of the Ferrari Challenge. It's not only the drivers, but also the team winning team that gets a trophy as well. Everyone gets to the step 1 of the podium
Lift your trophy.
as the trophies are held and the photographs are taken. Davide Rigon will exit stage left very quickly.
Davide can leave the podium.
Exit, look.
And now,
who's going to be first with the
okay.
champagne? Oscar, in my opinion.
And we are ready for the champagne battle when you want.
They're in no hurry. Oscar Rinjovic is going to win it. Yeah, definitely. There seems to be an awful lot of fizz in his bottle, doesn't there? Anyway, P3, it was Thomas Kostner for CDP MP Racing. For Kessel Racing, P2 for Oscar Rintovic. And Iniko Rapato, Corsa Ram, Manuela Kostner, race winner. We will take a look at the Ferrari Challenge Copa Shell Championship standings to see who's done what and where. Fabrizio Fontana is P1, who's not here this weekend, ahead of Zoe Skrimpias P2. John Dillon P3 in the Drivers' Championship right now, with Christian Kinch, Thomas Kostner, Manuela Kostner, Fons Skeltermar and Cristiano Margel occupying the next positions through to P8 in the Copa Shell Drivers' Championship. To the second page, where we find Oscar Rinjovic, who's moved up 9 places, look to P9. Ahead of Tibor Valint and Ray Acosta, both missing this weekend, as are Eric Chung. And for whatever reason, James Weiland not setting a time in qualifying and therefore didn't take his place on the grid today. Ahead of Michael Martin and Motohiko Isosaki, who's P15 in the points. There's more pages to come. Stand by as we keep our eyes on the Drivers' Championship for the Ferrari Challenge Copa Shell. Jan Salmon, who's been elevated to the Shell AM category, ahead of Corinna Kostner and Ernst Kirchmeier. Then it's NM and Ruslan Sadriv and Germano Salinatano. They occupy positions 16 through 21. And we're done with the Ferrari Challenge Copa Shell Drivers' Championship points. And that our last race, live from Hockenheim. And big thanks to Nico Spalek alongside me then in voice and statistics and support and everything you need. And we'll see you back for more racing tomorrow from the Ferrari Challenge live from Hockenheim. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.